I want to bring to order the October 25th, 2022 regularly scheduled board meeting for the Richland 2 Board of Trustees. For the record, Dr. Holmes is with us via phone. She had a family emergency that she had to take care of. Dr. Holmes, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. All right. If I can please have a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
I move that we convene an executive session for the purpose of student appeals.
Motion made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll take the vote. Is everyone in electronically?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 7-0. It's unanimous. We'll now convene into executive session. Thank you. I want to reconvene the October 25th, 2022 regularly scheduled board meeting for the Richland 2 Board of Trustees. If I can have a motion for the end of executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
I move that the record reflect that executive session was concluded at 6:00 p.m.
Motion made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded. For the record, Dr. Holmes is with us via phone. She had a family emergency, could not be here with us in person, but is here with us over the telephone. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll have the vote. Motion passes unanimously. We'll now move on to our inspirational moment and Pledge of Allegiance. And I have Mr. Troy Thames with the Boys and Girls Club. If you could please come forward.
Hello. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to give an update about the Boys and Girls Clubs. Very long walk from my seat to here. But yeah, my name is Troy Thames. I'm the executive director of the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Midlands. And just kind of wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are. And there we go. Let's start off with our mission. Everything that we're going to talk about today comes back to this mission statement right here: to enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as productive, responsible, and caring citizens. I want you to remember that statement because we're going to come back to that multiple times throughout this presentation. Who we are. The Boys and Girls Club of the Midlands has been serving the Midlands since 1959. Our partnership with Richland District 2 started in 2005. So we have been serving in this school district for a number of years. Across the Midlands, we're serving 50 programs. In the Midland, in Richland District 2, we're currently serving almost 2,000 children in an array of different programs. We try to meet the need of the parents, the kids, and the schools. Being in a high military area where we provide an early bird service for those parents that need service at 5 a.m. Yes, I said 5 a.m. We're there for them. For before school care, we're there for them. After school, winter breaks, spring breaks, summer breaks, our partnership has enabled us to be able to serve all these young people and their families in the schools throughout their districts. Want to say thank you. I'm going to say thank you multiple times throughout this. We're currently serving in 14 elementary schools and 2 middle schools in Richland District 2. That's something that I'm very proud of. How do we serve them? Oh, I just broke it. We use what you call a formula for impact. This is a evidence-based formula that we've got from our national office, and it's more than just aftercare. So young people who need us most, plus outcome-driven club experiences. What are those? 5 key elements for positive youth development: safe and positive environments, fun, supportive relationships with adults, opportunities, expectations, and recognition. Equal what aligns with what we're all here to do today, which is academic success, good character and citizenship, and healthy lifestyles. Fun with a purpose, who we are. So each day we provide homework assistance. We call it Power Hour, 1 hour of homework, right? 1 hour of that education focus time. We also do leadership and recognition programs such as Youth of the Month. And then we also have Healthy Lifestyles, which is programs. We have culmination programming where it starts small and builds and builds and builds. And then we have events where all of our young people come together. I'll tell you more about that a little bit later in the presentation. We have an example of that coming up this Saturday, and something that you'll be very proud of as well. But we're serious about this. We have quality spot checks twice a month. We have area directors that build relationships with their principals to find out what it is that they need and how they can do it. We have customer surveys, progress outcomes. These are your outcomes for your district. 97% of our participants complete their homework daily. 97% of them are on grade level. 98% of them plan to go to college. Now, yes, we are talking about some kindergartners, so they don't know what college they're going to, but they know that there is something post-secondary, right? And 87% of our participants are earning mostly A's and B's. We do lots of programming focused around giving back. And then what does that lead to? That leads to results for tomorrow. You'll recognize the 2 in the middle, Denzel Washington and J-Lo. They are Boys and Girls Club alumni. The 2 on the outside, Warren Bolton, used to be the editor of the state newspaper, and Brooks Harper, who is an incredible author and motivational speaker, both alumni of the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Midlands. Customer satisfaction. 95% of our parents say that they are satisfied with our program, and they would love to have, and then 96 would recommend it to their friends. Our director of operations hates seeing this statistic because I say, go find my 5%. Right? We're missing 5%. We gotta go get them. But every child deserves the best. We are the 10th accolade that I'm proud of. Our parents and community has voted us the best after-school program 10 years in a row through the free times. And so other accolades there, but that one is something that is near and dear to my heart. But one thing that we did together is something that I'm very, very proud of. I want us to go back to that mission statement, those young people that need us the most. In 2020, we as a conglomerate, we stopped, we halted, right? Because of the pandemic. At that time, we had to think about what do the parents need and what do the kids need? And they need a place, especially as we were moving into virtual programming. And Richland District 2 and the Boys and Girls Club came together, came up with a safety plan of operations, and we provided programming at Joseph Gills. I believe we were the only student serving program in schools, in public schools in the state of South Carolina at that time. And that was something that we did together. In the need, in the time. We put together operations, we put together safety protocols. We served over 250 children, had 50 staff work that. We had 0 positive cases of COVID. That should be something that we're all proud of, and that when the parents needed us and the kids needed us and our community needed us, we were all there together. So I want to say thank you again. I think that's the 4th time I said thank you. But we couldn't do it without these kids right here, our amazing club members, right? And we did it through programming, and programming. Very intentional, very purposeful. And it was something that we did together. I just want to say thank you for the 5th time, and it wasn't just me. It was those young people right there. Those are Richland 2 young people right here from this community. But culmination event, we've got a flag football tournament coming up on Saturday. Each one of your 14 elementary schools have a team in that tournament. Single elimination. That trophy has not left Richland District 2 in 10 years. It has bounced from Windsor to Round Top to Rice Creek to Killian. I want you to remember there's 5 other school districts involved with this. That trophy has not left Richland District 2. The Spirit Squad, the energy, if you want to see something that'll warm your heart, come out Saturday morning and see what this hard work of us working together has done right here in Richland District 2. Any questions that I can answer?
Board members, questions or comments? Ms. Mackey?
Just a comment, I appreciate your sharing with us today, and I'm aware of a good bit of the initiatives of Boys and Girls Club, just from what I've heard, and I've had children. I've had children in the district for a long time, and I've had a child, well, an adult, a young adult son now who worked with Boys and Girls Club, several moons ago. And so I've heard so many of the initiatives that this club offers, that this organization offers over the years, but to hear how you keep sharpening your tools and keep adding more to your plate and meeting students where they are, meeting the needs where they are, I appreciate that. So thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Other board members? Ms. McFadden?
I would like to say thank you. I'm so interested in after-school programs, and I know that you guys have been around for a long time. I'm actually a product, not of Richland 2's Boys and Girls Club, but in Tennessee we had one as well. And I know the work is nationwide, and you guys do a great job. I want to say thank you so much for your enthusiasm and for making sure these kids had a place to stay, because a lot of parents didn't have anywhere to go for COVID. So thank you so much, and it is commendable that you guys did that. So thank you for doing that, and thank you to you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Other board members? Yeah, just a big thank you. Great partnership. Appreciate the hard work and the fact that we work so well together.
Yeah.
Look forward to that continuing to grow and develop and get better, like fine wine or cheese.
Sometimes it does smell like cheese. But yes. Thank you so much. It really means a lot. Thank you all for the partnership, and enjoy the rest of the board.
Thank you. You want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Would you like to do that while you're here?
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Okay. I'm putting you to work.
All right. All right, ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all.
Thank you. Dr. Davis, you'd be proud of me for squeezing the most out of that partnership. All right, if I can have an approval of the motion to approve the agenda, please.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. McFadden.
I would like to move to postpone item 10.1, the 8% bond resolution, until December 13th board meeting for discussion.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Agostini. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Manning?
Let me get Ms. Mackey and then Dr. Holmes. I'll get you.
Mr. Chair, I propose leaving it on the agenda so we could at least have a discussion. Even if it's not voted on tonight, I'd like to at least have a discussion about it.
Thank you. Dr. Holmes?
Yes, Mr. Manning. I had some concerns about it also because we've just never had an opportunity to do that since I've been a board member, and I know that there were some concerns in the community. But I'd like to leave it on the agenda, even if we do not do anything with it, because I would like for the public to hear about it and for us to get a little more information about it. So I don't really think I want to act on it tonight, but I do want to actually hear it.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. McFadden and then Ms. Agostini.
I can change my motion.
Okay, so are you saying you want to rescind your motion?
I would like to move to have the 8% bond resolution for a discussion only tonight, not as an action item.
Okay, I guess technically I already had a motion and second on the floor. Since you made the motion, I'll allow you to change it. So I now have a new motion that to have it for information only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Holmes. Mrs. Agostini.
And I agree with the first motion that was made, since neither the public nor the board was made aware of the capital needs, the $25 million that are being asked for. But I would prefer to delay the discussion, because any vote that will be made will now be made with at least 3 new board members, and we'll just repeat the discussion, because I think it's only fair to them to have the new board who will be voting on it seated and participate in a discussion prior to a vote. So I would like to see it stick with the December discussion, and then maybe a January vote. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Davis.
If I could offer a suggestion as well, I think supporting Mrs. McFadden's motion and Dr. Holmes' second, with so much misinformation and disinformation that has been reported to me today around the bond resolution, administration doesn't have a problem rehashing or continuing the conversation for the new members on the board at that time. But I think it's important that we have an opportunity to share the information, so those who have been commenting about the bond referendum, I'm sorry, the 8%, it's not a bond, the 8%, can maybe get some correct information that then they can go out on their Facebook post and share with the community, and those members that are here and watching can get as much information as possible. So having additional conversations about it would be beneficial. But I would like the opportunity for us to share a little bit about it tonight, so that we can correct any misinformation that has been shared with the board or out in the community via Facebook, because I haven't received any emails of concern about it, other than one email from a person who lives in our district.
Ms. Agostini.
Thank you. Can we be assured then that we will discuss it again with the new board and then vote at a separate meeting?
We can be assured of that, because it will be, her second motion is for no action. It becomes a no action item. And so we'll have the discussion. We'll bring the new members of the board in. We'll bring it back before them for another discussion, and then we can bring it back for a vote. But I think it's important that we address any mis or disinformation. I think that's our responsibility as a board and superintendent, to make sure that our community fully understands what this is about.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. I tend to agree, Dr. Davis, with that as well. I think the more information that we can share on this topic, the better off the community is. This board and district will be. Certainly a second discussion wouldn't hurt. Some of these concepts can be somewhat complicated, understanding what 8% budgets are, how they work, how they benefit the district, what the impacts are. So having more than one discussion would certainly not hurt, especially with as many new board members as will be here, to try to understand the complexities of all of that. So I have a motion. I have a second. Is there any further discussion?
For clarification.
Ms. Mackey?
The motion is to leave the item 10.1 on the agenda for discussion only. Is that correct?
That's correct. No
Thank
action.
You.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. With that,
I do have a question.
I'm sorry.
Because it says a new business action required. Would we need to move that to another location of no action required?
No, we just need to change it to no action. By doing the motion, we'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Manning,
Dr. Holmes?
I'd like to say thank you, Dr. Davis, for doing that, because there has been a lot of misinformation going out about different things, and I appreciate you taking the time so we can get clear, distinct information. Thank you for pulling it. I appreciate that.
All right. With that, do we need a hand vote, Christine? Yes. Okay. All in favor of
No, you
the
don't need a hand vote. Can you just check it and make sure that's what?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Christine.
We don't need a hand vote, but if Mrs. McFadden can just check the screen to make sure, because
Okay.
I paraphrased her motion.
Ms. McFadden, you're good? Okay. All right. We're good with that. All right. We'll vote digitally. Motion passes unanimously. Can I now have a motion for the remainder of the agenda? Ms. Mackey?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey?
I move to approve actually, was that just for that one item? Yes, I'd like to make a move to approve the agenda with the addition of,
With the,
Hold on,
with the
no, no.
change that was requested
yeah,
for
I was
item
getting the verbiage
10.1.
right. Yes, I'd like to approve the agenda with the amendment of item 10.1, 8% bond resolution, to be an item for discussion and not action.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll take the vote. Yeah, we haven't seen it pop up yet, Christine. Oh, there it goes. Motion passes unanimously. I now have a motion for our consent agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey?
I move to approve the consent agenda for the October 25th, 2022 regular board meeting.
Motion made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll take the vote. Motion passes unanimously. We will now move on to
Mr.
our...
Chair.
Yes, Ms. Mackey?
Can I take a point of personal privilege?
Yes.
If I could? Just wanted to introduce my family. I know that we have people who have to be here every board meeting and those who choose to be here. I want to take a minute to recognize my family who are here. If you could stand, we have a good bit of Mackination here. Stacy, Christian, Donna, Deshauna, Dion, Tammy, my parents in love, Albert and Violet, just a little tiny bit of Mackination. My family means the world to me, and I could not do this without their support. So if you just smile and wave, just wanted to welcome my family here because I could not do what I do without their love and support. I love you all dearly, and I simply wanted to introduce you. Thank you for being here this evening.
That's awesome. All right, we will now move on to item 6.1, Teacher of the Year recognition. Dr. Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, and to our visitors that are here with us in person and those who are viewing online, we are excited about recognizing our Teachers of the Year. To help us with that is our Senior Chief for Communications, Ms. Elizabeth Libby Ruth. Libby.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. And good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Dr. Davis, and our in-person and online guests. It is a real pleasure and an honor to introduce our 2022-2023 Teachers of the Year. Before I introduce and bring them in, I will let you know how they got here. These exceptional teachers were voted on by their fellow teachers at their schools back in January of 2022. We start the process early because it is a lengthy and involved process to select our district teacher of the year. Each school level teacher of the year prepares a portfolio based on the state application. That is judged and narrows down the group to 10. They're judged again, and that narrows it down to 5, and the 5 finalists were named in August. And then we have an interview and an observation process that takes place between August and the middle of September. And on Friday in September, we introduced and named our 22-23 District Teacher of the Year. So we are ready to bring them in. Tradition has been before COVID that board members would come stand in front, if y'all are willing and want to do that, to greet them and say hello. And Dr. Davis will be handing out their plaques. So if y'all are interested in doing that, feel free to come stand up kind of around this front area so we can kind of get y'all in the camera. I will ask if everyone can hold their applause because we are going to hold them all in the room. Teachers of the Year, you know your instructions are, and y'all are good teachers, so I know you follow, is to line up or gather in front of the screen so we can say a few more good words about you. And they are receiving tonight, for those who are sitting out there and may not know, we give our Teachers of the Year a very nice plaque to put outside their door that commemorates when they were the school level Teachers of the Year. So we will begin with our new 22-23 District Teacher of the Year. She is Miss Tracy Mason from Longleaf Middle School. And then coming with her are the honor roll teachers. So these are the teachers who were named one of the 5 finalists, and they're identified as honor roll teachers. Lisa McDowell from Blythewood Middle, Melita Cobb from North Springs Elementary, Ashley Sallow from Pontiac Elementary, and Susan Matthews from Richland Northeast High. And so now we will turn to our school level teachers of the year. Mary Burns from Bethel Hanbury Elementary, Aaron Ziner from Blythewood High, Dr. Nicole Gilliard from Bridge Creek Elementary, Joji Love from Catawba Trail Elementary, Erica Nelson from Dent Middle, Leanna Haga from E.L. Wright could not be with us tonight, so we will move on to introducing Crystal Baker from Forest Lake Elementary, Christina Stout from Jackson Creek Elementary, Courtney Marion, Joseph Keels Elementary, Brooke Beckham Rader from Kelly Mill Middle. Lucius Anderson from Killeen Elementary could not be with us tonight, so we will bring on in Creana Bailey from Lake Carolina Elementary Lower, Katrina Holmes from Lake Carolina Elementary Upper, Trinice McJunkins from Langford Elementary, Dr. Lasagna Stewart Haynes from Lonnie B. Nelson Elementary, Miranda Perkins from L.W. Condor Elementary, Anna Reeves from Muller Road Middle, Yvette Graham from Polo Road Elementary, Tommy Glover from Rice Creek Elementary, Tanika Pierce Boney from Ridgeview High, Ashby Sanders, Round Top Elementary, Tawana James from Sandlapper Elementary, Melissa Dissinger, Spring Valley High. I was about to say Spring Valley Elementary, no. Elizabeth Betsy Dew from Summit Parkway Middle, be with us. Paige Brown from Westwood High, and finish off the group, Sandra Gibson from Windsor Elementary. Don't go anywhere. And I always end with saying a few comments directly to our Teachers of the Year, and this is my favorite part. And I say it from me, my words, but certainly on behalf of the board, Dr. Davis, and all of those standing here, and I would say the entire Richland 2 family. You all are truly the best of the best, and you join a group of many Teachers of the Year that we select each year, but you bring your own special, unique qualities, and as Dr. Davis says, your gifts and talents. Now more than ever, our Teachers of the Year are so crucial to ensuring that this important, very important career and profession continues to maintain its importance and value to our community. You all are the shining examples that will help young children look to you and want to be just like you. So thank you for all you do for our students. Thank you for what you are doing for this profession, and thank you for what you do for Richland 2. Please join me in congratulating them one more time. And now, Dr. Davis, you good? Yep, we're good. Our Teachers of the Year are going to exit from which they came in, and we are going to gather them downstairs to take a group photograph.
Mr. Manning?
Hold on one second. I got Ms. McFadden asked for a point of privilege, and then Dr. Holmes, I'll come to you.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to say I chose not to shake hands because I've been doing a little coughing and I don't want to spread germs, so I wasn't trying to be rude to anyone, and I wanted to stay away, so that I wasn't trying to be rude by not shaking hands. I really wish I could, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that I didn't do that because I've been feeling a little under the weather, so I'm going to keep my mask on tonight. Thank you.
Dr. Holmes?
I hate that I am not there with you all because this is an important event. Congratulations to all the Teachers of the Year. Several moons ago, I was a Teacher of the Year myself, so I know the importance of what you do and how hard you work. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations.
All right, thank you. We will now move on to 7.1, our public participation. First on the list, I have Kayla Coyne. Okay. Second on my list, I have Dylan Gunnels.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I apologize for moving to a difficult topic after a wonderful celebration, but unfortunately, actions have consequences. This experience has brought me so much clarity and healing. I've never gotten to sit at a table like this, share my experiences without fear, and know that my story matters. Today, I felt truly heard and truly seen for the first time. Elected officials and esteemed guests, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak before you today. My name is Dylan Gunnels. I have lived in South Carolina my entire life, and I currently reside in Columbia. I'm the founder and equity designer at the Agape Table, an organization that curates sacred spaces of healing for queer people and their friends in South Carolina. The quotes that I started with are quotes from real people right here in the Midlands, queer individuals who have participated in dialogue sessions. I must respect their discretion, but I tell you that when I think about their stories, my heart is heavy. They were too far along in their life journey to have just felt seen and heard for the first time. But unfortunately, this is the reality for many queer individuals who have been shamed, oppressed, disregarded, and turned into a political topic. My heart is also heavy because my story is their story, and their story is my story. I knew as early as the second grade that I was gay. I can tell you the exact moment and the exact environment when that realization took place. I didn't have the language or the understanding to express it at the time, but I knew that what I was feeling was different than those around me. That never changed throughout all of elementary school, but I kept quiet. In middle school, I could not keep quiet any longer. I attempted to come out and embrace my sexuality, but I was met with a community that refused to embrace me in return. I was ostracized, bullied, and repeatedly called a faggot, and on a few occasions told to just kill myself. I took that advice to heart, and the depression and suicidal ideation began. I can safely say that middle school was some of the hardest years of my entire life. In high school, I decided to keep quiet again. That made me more accepted, and from an outside perspective, I thrived. Varsity tennis, student government, jazz band and wind ensemble, NJROTC, school newspaper, 4.0 GPA, community involvement, friends, and so much more. Never able to let anyone completely in or never able to fully be myself. On the outward appearance, I was great, but inwardly, I was miserable. If you've never been there, it's exhausting. No matter how much you accomplish or how many friends you have, the thought of not being here at all seems more ideal than not being fully seen and fully loved. Let me be clear, I did not want to die, but the freedom found in death seemed more appealing than the burden of being someone nobody wanted. I didn't see representation growing up. It felt like no one in my hometown of Aiken was like me, and those that were like me were outcasts. Very little in public school curriculum showed me there were queer people who came before me and done great things, and lack of exposure kept me from seeing the amazing queer people that existed in the world around me. The topic was basically forbidden at home and taboo in the community. I had intentions of bringing more folks with me this evening and having more experiences represented at the podium, but unfortunately much of our time these past few months has been spent dealing with anti-queer legislation, backlash from the South Carolina Pride Festival, and the misinformed rhetoric and hate speech that comes from lack of education and lack of exposure.
Dylan, I'm sorry, I have to cut you off at 3
I have
minutes.
one more paragraph, please.
I can't. No, I'm sorry. I have to hold you at 3 minutes. I apologize. So,
Well, then I would just request that it be known that my story is other people's stories and their students that you're serving, and I'm here for one particular reason tonight. And so those of you that are elected officials, you serve all people, not just the ones that you appreciate and condone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. I'm sorry about that. I have to hold true with everybody on that issue. I've got Diane Williams.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This will be the last time we will see many of you acting on behalf of the children in this school district. But before you leave, I would like to express my sincere thank you for the service you have provided Richland School District 2. I personally know being a board member is not an easy task, especially when it involves making decisions about the livelihood of people. Oftentimes, it requires making unpopular decisions. I've watched many of you make those unpopular decisions with a calm, non-condescending, and respectful demeanor. I truly appreciate that posture. For those of you who will not be here at our next school board meeting, in the words of Cicely Tyson, in her book, Just As I Am, to soar towards what's possible, you must leave behind what's comfortable. You've given many, many years of service as board members and former educators in this district, and that's what's comfortable. However, I've seen you deal with so many uncomfortable situations over the past few years. My husband and I raised our children in the school district. They are now ages 41, 42, and 48. They've all moved to other states. However, my husband and I, we've remained here as residents, property owners, a small business owner, and leaders in our Brooklyn Baptist Church family. We saw the makeup of the board change a few years ago. It's shameful that the makeup of the board now includes those who feel the need to physically and verbally attack their fellow board members, not the values and principles I've taught our children in handling conflicts. Thank you for your service for those of you who are leaving this board. For those of you who will remain, you know we as registered voters in this district are watching you and your actions. I will leave you with the words of Dr. Seuss. Unless someone like you cares a whole lot, I mean a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Irena Stevens.
Hello. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present a concern as a Richland 2 parent. Whole child survey was distributed to students in the beginning of October and is targeted to students as young as 5th grade. The parents were provided a short notice of the survey. There was no parental consent sought, nor opt-out option provided to students. This survey contained questions that many of the parents that I have contacted strongly disagree with, and did they know of the questions, especially question number 1, would prefer for their children not to participate. I would like to, overall, there are a lot of questions that were good on that survey. However, today, I would like to bring your attention and to concentrate on question number 1. What is your gender? Mark 1 response. The options are male, female, non-binary, prefer not to say. The non-binary gender identity is presented as a fact to minors, introducing the idea that there are more than 2 genders. Our family, as many others in the school district, wholeheartedly believe that God created humankind in his own image. The image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them, as the Bible states in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. Children are in school to learn and not to be subjected to liberal ideological grooming. Non-binary answer is viewed by many as a deviant minority viewpoint forced on majority of students in a Western nation founded on Judeo-Christian principles. School is not a place to push radical gender ideology that seeks to unsettle and disrupt gender. School is not a place to sow confusion about gender. This is not education. It is the beginning of ideological grooming. Rather than learning objective facts about the world, students are forced into participation in a survey that starts off with the revolutionary ideologies about gender. Once again, parental permission was not sought, thus undermining parental authority on such a controversial subjective issue. As a mother, as a voter that you represent, as a taxpayer, as a Christian, I respectfully request for the board to stop gender identity promotion to minors in schools in any form or fashion. And I appreciate you looking into this and keeping our schools focused on education.
Ms. Stevens, thank you very much. If I can have Martha Jones come forward, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Manning and board members, I am here to cordially invite you to the Order of the Flame. This year I am serving as the interim president for the Richland 2 Education Foundation. And one of the 2 events that we do, and we'll be seeing all these Teachers of the Year come the spring in our Teacher of the Year banquet, but we do the Order of the Flame. We celebrate folks that have been in the district or and retired, students that have graduated from our schools, and community partners that have been a part of this district for a long time. And this year you have an invitation on your desk. This year we have double Academy Award winner in Michelle Eisenreich, who graduated from Spring Valley High School. We have Barbara Grossberg, who has laid the foundation for our social worker program that is now in place in Richland, too. Catherine Olympisis is a national high school coach in the Hall of Fame and has coached many girls who have competed in the Olympics and were very successful. Dr. Lewis Lynn has been a community partner for years to Richland School District 2 and has done a tremendous job in helping a lot of our students get into the service industry profession. And then Jim Price, who is deceased, but was a much-loved elementary school principal who opened 2 of our schools and mentored many, many of the principals who have gone through the district and served well. So I wanted to invite you to this, to come and support these folks who are being honored. The information for tickets is on the back if you'd like to sponsor. We'd love for you to do that as well. This event is on November the 10th. It's a Thursday night. It will be right here at the R2i2 Conference Center. So thank you for letting me come and speak, and I hope I'll see you there. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Jones. I have Representative Ivory Thigpen.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to take an opportunity to come. I've been present at some previous board meetings, and I do know that in public service, it takes a tremendous demand of time, energy, and sacrifice, not only for you, but for your families as well. You are oftentimes on the front lines of criticism. Oftentimes, your decisions are second-guessed. But at the end of the day, you willingly offered yourself to public service for our community. So in particular, to the board members that are now no longer seeking re-election, I want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all that you have invested energy as well into helping make our district better. And to those who remain and continue to answer the call, I want to thank you for your diligence and your effort as well. I not only am a representative, I'm a pastor and a community leader. I am a parent. I've had 4 children to matriculate, and some are still matriculating through the district. So I think I come from a perspective that is multifaceted. With that being said, my concern is always community. I do know that we have differences, and I do know that we differ, but my prayer is that our differences do not create divisions. But when we have shared goals, when we have shared responsibilities, then there's a common gain for us all. So I'll end by simply saying I want to thank all those who have offered themselves as candidates for the school board. For I believe our democracy works best when we don't have critics who simply create problems, but we have critical thinkers who actually work to solve problems and offer themselves, even if it means running so that they can serve in that public position as well. So to all the candidates that offered themselves and those who are supporting them, I want to thank you for participating in our process to make our community better. Last, as my time winds down, I know a lot of people have reached out to me about a couple of the amendments that are on the ballot as early voting has started. I'll be hanging around if anyone wants further explanation on general reserve funds or capital reserve funds, the 2 amendments to our Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Thigpen. I now have Gary Dennis.
Good evening, board members. My name is Gary Dennis. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. I'm here today to talk to you about what you guys pulled from action and put it under a discussion. The $25 million bond. Make no mistake about it, it is a bond. It is a general order bond. The general order bond is based on your credit worthiness and your ability to levy taxes against citizens of Richland County. Having a $25 million bond pop up on there with action really concerned me because I haven't heard anything about it. I follow you guys a lot. I don't get to be here because normally I'm down at the county doing county stuff. However, when I seen this, I made sure to clear my calendar to come up here and talk. The more I read into this, the more concerns I had. Knowing that we're given a general order bond to Dr. Davis to use when he needs to. I know you're trying to do best with everything you got. However, I believe it's fiscally irresponsible for a body such as this to give that over until we know exactly what it's going to be used for. Make no mistake about it, there is a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of people didn't understand some of the stuff I put out there because general order bonds are not easy to understand. I trade on the stock market, I follow the bonds, I buy bonds, I understand them. Most of the public does not. But that's still no reason to have this pop up there. We should have had discussion, something should have been out there. Capital improvements can mean a lot of things. We had a $500 million bond, and there were some capital improvements. There was safety. Thank you for a lot of that, even though I was opposed to a lot of it because I wanted to consolidate more because I'm very fiscal with money. I do want you guys to have a very good conversation and let the public know why we need a $25 million bond. Once again, a $25 million bond, an open check. We just don't know. Please, my speech was going to be a lot different until y'all pulled it for discussion. Thank you for that so that we can now understand why we need it. And for the public that's watching and listening, make no mistake about it. It is a bond. If payments are failed to be met, it also can go on taxes. Now, there are a lot of other steps, so it's not just one of those things where your taxes are going to get raised, but it can happen. That's why we need to make sure what we're asking for we can do and why we need it and that it's fiscally responsible on the board members to make sure it's done correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Joe Trapp.
Good evening, board members. I am not here to complain about anything. In fact, really I have very little to say because what happened this afternoon at the beginning of this meeting is exactly what I had hoped would happen and what I was going to ask the board to do. So all I really need to do at this point is thank you for doing that. I know a lot of people were concerned about this bond issue and wanted more information, and I appreciate you guys making the motions that were necessary to do exactly what we had wanted. And while I'm up here, I would like to also express my gratitude to all of you that will not be returning to the board next year. I want to thank you for your service. Over the last year, I've come to learn that it is a difficult job, and it can be a real pain. And I really appreciate the work that y'all do, and I hope you have the best with the rest of your life. Thank you.
All right, we'll now move on to item 8.1, student appeals. If I can have a motion, please.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Agostini.
first of all, I want to state that I'm going to pull students number 1, 2, and 6. For student number 3, I move Blythewood Academy with Loredak.
Are you making a motion?
What was the question?
Student
No, she's
number
not done
4, deny the appeal. And student number 5, Blythewood Academy.
Do we have a second?
Motion's been made by Mrs. Agostini. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who's that, Dr. Scott? All right, motion made by Dr. Scott, or seconded by Dr. Scott. Is there any discussion? All right, with no discussion, we'll have the vote.
That is correct.
Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Agostini?
Mr. Chair, I move for student number 1, deny the appeal.
Motion made by Mrs. Agostini. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion? All right, once we see the motion, we can take the vote. Motion passes 5 yes, 2 no. Mrs. Agostini?
Student number 2, deny the appeal.
Motion made by Mrs. Agostini. Is there a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, once the motion pops up, we'll vote. Motion passes 6 yes, 1 no. Mrs. Agostini?
And for student number 6, I move to grant the student's request for an in-person hearing with the board.
Motion made by Mrs. Agostini. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Scott. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Manning?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Holmes?
I think I need a little clarity. I don't know how much I can say, but
Not much. Yeah.
I'm trying to. When I put it in a question. We've never had it where students return to school to have a hearing. Is that correct? Just as a point of correction.
It's well, I want to be careful. There's a lot of nuance in what you're saying there. But I would say,
I'm trying to phrase it carefully because I'm a little confused because it was hard to hear, but I just need a little clarity that
Okay.
can you provide some without saying too much?
not really a whole lot. The parent, if you look at what the actual appeal is for and realize that the parent asked to be heard in person, if you'll scroll to the very bottom and see what the punishment was for the student or what the decision of the hearing officer is and what the parent's appealing, then that's about all I can do in public, Dr. Holmes. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, it's
Ms.
just that
Mackey?
this was very unusual request that we've never dealt with before. It's not just about not hearing to hear because I always like to hear students. Okay, that's all I needed. I can figure it out from there.
All right,
Thank you.
Ms. Mackey.
Mr. Chair, just for a point of discussion, I won't be supporting this evening just because I am in favor of what the student has been granted. Doesn't get much better than that. I won't be able to support this motion because I'm in favor of what the student was granted initially.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Any other discussion? Okay, with no further, I'm sorry, Dr. Scott.
Yes.
I will be supporting this motion. I think I've shared with you guys on many occasions. We have over 28,000 students in the district, and I've been on this board for 10 years. And I think in my time on this board, we probably had less than 20 parents who asked to come before the board. With 28,000 students, and only about 20 parents have asked, and pretty much less than 20 in 10 years. You know my philosophy. When there's a parent who wants to be involved and want to come before the board, they're always going to have my support. Even if the child is wrong, they're going to have my support, because I think we still need to hear from the child, hear from the parents, and everyone is due process, regardless of what the situation is. So just know, parents, anytime you want to be heard by the school board, you will always have my support. And as I say before, it may not be you today, but it can be you tomorrow, and you'll be that parent calling asking if I would support it. So we need to always support parents when they want to be an advocate for their child. Thank you.
Ms. McFadden.
My concern is that this punishment isn't for the student, it's for the parent. And I think that that's a big issue when we start issuing out consequences to parents as a school district. I don't think that that's our role. Our role is to determine whether or not the child should be able to remain in our district or in our school. But to issue consequences to a parent is not the role of a school board. So I will not be supporting this.
Ms. Mackey. I think my comment to that is just, I think that's an interpretation as to whether that's a parental issue or a family issue. But again, I can't say a whole lot without violating the students' rights and the family's rights. But I think that's your interpretation. I see that very differently.
Okay, so if that's my interpretation, please make it clear, because from what I'm reading, this punishment is for the parent, because the child's punishment is not one. What's been issued, it's for the parent.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Let me just make,
I just want to be really clear on what we're voting on right now is for the student to have an appeal with us. Okay.
I understand, yeah, I got
Thank
that,
you.
but I'm saying I'm not going to support the administration's decision, is what I'm saying.
Okay, Ms. Mackey.
you just want to make it clear, the reason that I made my statement is to show why I'm not supporting the motion, because I absolutely do support what the administration has suggested for the student. It is not a bad thing, but we can't get into details. Everything, all I can say is that everything is not as it seems, because we are not able to give details here, because we are in a public session regarding an executive session item. My statement was to make it clear why I'm not supporting the motion, because I'm in favor of what the administration has done to support this family.
Okay, are there any other comments? Again, the motion is.
Mr. Manning?
Dr.
Mr. Manning?
Holmes.
Yes, I do want, I think I need to say something here. I am going to always be for parents that have hearings, but when stuff has been resolved and there's other stuff that has never been dealt with that we cannot say publicly, that is where the rub is. I don't want the public to be confused that there are those of us who do not wish to hear parents. That is not true. The student has a great resolve, but there are some other nuances here. And so that's why the difficulty with making this decision, because it's something that this board has never had to been asked to do, especially when the child has a favorable outcome. Thank you.
Yes, and the board's never been asked to support punishment for parents, so that's why this is new.
Ms. McFadden, I'm going to, if we can have the vote, please. Motion fails, 3 yes, 4 no. If I can have another motion, please.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
I move to deny the appeal, thereby upholding the administration's recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Holmes. Is there any discussion? I'm sorry. Wow. Holy cow. Wow. Cheryl, I apologize. Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Oh, wow. All right. Is there any discussion now? All right. We'll take the vote. Motion passes 4 yes, 3 no. That concludes our student appeals. We'll now move on to, there are no other items for executive session. So item 9.1, policy approval, policy BK, board membership and professional associations. If I can have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
I move to approve policy BK, board membership and professional associations.
Motion made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Scott.
I guess my only discussion would be, it just amazes me that we're getting ready to change over board members and we're getting ready to vote on policies instead of tabling all of these policies until a few weeks when the new board members come on. But yet, the outgoing board members have had an opportunity to enjoy these policies. Now they want to change it for the new board members. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll call for the vote.
Mr. Chair.
There's been a motion to call for the vote. We have to, is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. McFadden. Is there any discussion? What?
The comment here is not about anyone.
I got to deal with the.
I thought you said discussion. Go ahead.
No, a discussion for the call for the vote. So I need this is, when you call for the vote, I got to have a vote on that.
I have discussion regarding the call for the vote.
I understand.
For clarification.
For the call for the vote? Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. Ms. Mackey.
Yeah, I won't be supporting the call for the vote because there's a clarification about this policy. It's a simple technicality. It's not about anyone trying to get over.
Okay.
I won't be supporting the call for the vote.
Dr. Caution Parker.
I agree, and also I have a problem with someone making a statement and then calling for a vote, trying to shut it off altogether as soon as it's been made. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, we'll take a vote on the call for the vote. Motion passes 4 yes, 3 no, so we'll take the vote at this time. On the policy is the motion made by Ms. Mackey. Motion passes 5 yes, 2 no. We'll now move on to policy approval for policy BID, board member compensation and expenses. If I can have a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Mackey.
I move to approve policy BID, board member compensation and expenses.
Motion made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden.
Again, this has highlighted a couple of, just a few conferences that we're allowed to go to or become members of when there's a plethora of things that we should be able to do. Again, there's board members who've been on this board for 12, 10 years, a decade or more, and who have been able to take advantage of a lot of these different conferences that we're able to attend to get our education. We have a brand new board coming on that needs a lot of training. I need a lot of the training as well, but we are not able to do a lot of these things if we're only limited to about 3 or 4 different ones. So I would suggest that we wait and we table this as your last act of getting out of here and not change this for the new people that are coming on. It specifically says 3, 4 different ones that we're able to do. Other than that, we're going to be stifled unless we have to come back and make a motion and say that we need to redo these 2, which that would be the first couple of things that we would have to do with a brand new board. How is it that a new board is going to come on and some of the things that we've had to do, the first thing it's going to be, well, the first thing they did when they got on the board was go to policy BID, board member compensation and expenses, and change it. And that's the legacy that this current board is leaving us, to put the position that some of the new board members are coming in the position to do that. First thing on the agenda, second thing on the agenda, January or December, just so that we can be able to go and learn different things. And that's the legacy they're going to leave us with. It's been a rough road. We all need education. But to stifle us in this way, when they've had the opportunity to go to different schools and locations, to tour schools, this policy is taking that away from us. We won't even be able to really go and tour a school with metal detectors and things. We'd have to jump through hoops to do that. I just really feel like with this board that's going out, to show a little compassion so that the first thing we don't have to do is go in and redo this for the first couple of board meetings when we're in here.
Ms. Agostini.
Yes. And I, too, share Ms. McFadden's concerns about the restrictions and the limitations in terms of where the board can go and the amount of time it will take, for example, to go visit Horry County and see how they do metal detectors, because it'll take about a month to get a board approval. Secondly, my concern, this policy will become effective January 1st, 2022. And finally, my last concern that, has resonated, the paragraph that says the district will reimburse board members for all reasonable and necessary expenses incurred in attending any meeting or conference when on official business of the board or the school district. And my concerns with that, in April, we received a list when I requested all of the individual board members' expenses for travel budget, but yet I'm concerned about who is able to do the reasonable and necessary, because even when one of our board members had far exceeded the budget, still went to Myrtle Beach, which was not on here, for another conference. So at what point are they cut off? And I'm not sure that we need to be putting administration in that position, and that's something that I would like to have addressed when we have new members sitting on the board. Thank you.
Dr. Caution Parker.
My issue with the concerns that are being expressed, because it really boils down to, we're not going to give you any money in advance. That's what it boils down to, paying in advance, because we have members who receive funds in advance and they don't repay it, or they take too long to repay it. If they take too long to repay it, then to me the action needs to be, you don't get any more funds to go anywhere until you repay the district. We're talking about taxpayers' dollars. We already have parents out here talking about having a bond. All of that is considered on this one policy. So to me, that's where a lot of this falls, about the compensation for going on the travels, to the travels. I think everybody knows up front when you run for the board, if you're going to be traveling, there are going to be things that you have to do, you have to travel. Therefore, you should be prepared to travel. Thank you.
Ms. Agostini, Dr. Davis had asked to speak. If I can let him speak and then come back to you. I'm sorry, did you not indicate you wanted to speak, or?
I'm sorry, I did, but I will yield to the board member.
Okay.
To give her an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, and while I appreciate Dr. Caution Parker's comments, I respectfully disagree. I think that we voted unanimously, and it was under her suggestion and recommendation to add the advancements and that you could not travel unless your balance was paid. So I disagree with her comments.
Ms. Mackey.
Just wanted to address, overarching a few overarching concerns. Number one, I've been on the board 8 years and have never had such contention and such issues made with outgoing board members. The last time I checked, you were a board member until you are no longer a board member. So to say that you are no longer running for re-election, so anything that you vote on, let's move that along to the next incoming board, is disrespectful. Number one, no one's trying to get over on anyone. The last policy that we passed said that we don't have a direct membership with National School Boards Association. It's impossible to have that membership because the state association is no longer a part of that organization. So there's no gotcha moment there. There's nothing that's being underhanded or unsurly. It is impossible to change that policy and have it stand as it is because we are no longer a member of the National School Boards Association. That's a simple comprehension issue. With regard to this policy with board member compensation and expenses, once there is a board in place, any board is able to pull up a policy, change it, amend it. That is a desire of the board. But you have a sitting board here who is trying to conduct business of the board, and everyone at the table's opinion occurs, and you've got a host of conferences here that can be attended to. So saying that you've been stifled, anything can happen with a board vote. The buck stops with the board, and a vote can be made at any time. So the elephant in the room to stifle board members who've not run for re-election, we're not stepping down. We haven't been kicked off the board. We are serving out our term, and I intend to do so with every vote that's taken before me until the end of my term. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Call the vote.
What?
Second.
Oh, it's 2/3 of the vote to, okay. Okay, thank you for that correction from the last time. So Mrs. Agostini's call for the vote. Do I have a second? What's that? Put on your mic, please, and speak clearly.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. McFadden. Is there any discussion?
Discussion, Mr. Chair. I
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
understand why, if you said that the superintendent has a comment to make or something to why someone would call for the vote and intentionally try to negate the superintendent's comments. I simply don't understand that, and I won't be supporting the call for the vote.
All right, any other discussion?
Yeah, I didn't.
Mr.
I thought
Manning?
he deferred it.
All right.
Thank you.
Dr.
Mr.
Holmes?
Manning?
Dr. Holmes?
Yes. A couple of things. This policy is not about stifling travel, so I wanted to put that out there. And then the other thing is, I would like to hear what Dr. Davis has to say. I don't understand this new call for the vote. You say your comments and then call for the vote, so no one else can get something said. So I want to hear what Dr. Davis says first, and I want to make it clear that this doesn't have anything to do with stifling people to travel and new board members that may come on, because that is a part of being a board member, is to go to various conferences. That's how you earn your different levels. So no one's trying to stifle anything. This is more about advancements that were received up front that weren't paid back. So I'd like to hear what Dr. Davis has to say. So I won't be supporting the tabling of the vote.
Okay, any other discussion on call for the vote? All right, we'll take the vote at this time. Motion fails, 2 yes, 5 no. Further discussion on the policy, Dr. Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members, for giving me an opportunity. I'm simply looking for clarification so that we could better assist the board with this policy. In the policy, as is currently stated, board members have an opportunity to make addendums or additions or changes to the current policy as it is at this time before we have a final vote in the second reading. So this is the second reading of the policy. If there's something that you wanted added or something that you would like to see deleted, you have the opportunity to do so and have it supported by your fellow board members. That way you have the appropriate process of getting your issues, concerns addressed. I would like to also ask for clarification on the statement of not having the opportunity based off of the number of organizations that are identified, but it doesn't limit the actual conferences that each of the organizations sponsor. So I'm looking for, is that a...
Well, Dr. I'd like to, first off, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege. Senator Mia McLeod is here with us. Ms. McLeod, Senator McLeod, if you would stand up, please, and be recognized. Thank you very much for attending today. Thank you for your presence and support. And Dr. Davis, to your point, the way that I read this, it talks about hosted organizations or organizations that host conferences, of which each organization hosts a multitude of conferences. So
Yes.
it's more than 2 or 3 conferences. It's a handful of organizations that are pre-approved.
So I guess yes, that's to my point. The School Board Association Conference, the school board hosts the annual conference, the Beyond Basics, the Day at the Capitol, the Legislative Advocacy Conference, and the legal conference.
Right, law conference.
Law conference, sorry. The law conference, just from the School Board Association. The National School Board Association offers multiple conferences beside the national conference. Part of the National School Board Association is also CUBE, which is a conference that's connected to the National School Board Association. Then you have the Consortium of State School Board Association that offer conferences, and then the South Carolina Association of School Administrators Conference. So if there is a conference that a board member believes that allows them to be a better board member, a way of addressing this is making a motion to add a organization that has the conference that you think may be beneficial to current board members and future board members. But each of these conferences that I just named, maybe with the exception of SCAPSI and NAPSI, I think, are not listed. So those would be 2 that typically, that's the South Carolina Association of Black School Educators, as well as the National Association of that. Those 2 are not listed as potential conferences to attend. But outside of that, every conference, every organization that's listed is an organization that the board currently goes to their conferences. So unless I'm missing something.
Mr. Chair.
And one more thing, Dr. Davis, so I'll make sure everybody can address everything. There was a comment made that if board members wanted to attend other schools, that could not be done. The way I read this policy, that would be a district-sponsored event, not a other organization-sponsored event. So that would not require a board vote if the board as a whole wanted to go visit another school. That would be through the district and would not be limited by this policy. Am I correct? Or
That's a different, I think of issue of whether or not the purpose for attending the school was one self-initiated or self-invited to attend.
versus like the district initiated.
Is this a decision that you or something you need to best prepare you and from your educational perspective and knowledge perspective of a board member, such as training, things of that nature. And so those things would have to be determined. And then if it is granted according to board policy, the person is supposed to come back and present that information.
Okay. All right, Mrs. McFadden.
Thank you for that, Dr. Davis and Mr. Manning, about the being able to go to a different location. So I was just curious, you said it would be district funded, so that still come out of board travel fund?
I think what Dr. Davis said, that it would depend on, is it me as an individual board member that wants to go visit a school, or does the district come and say, I think we should all go visit a program? In my past history, the district has said, I think we should go, the board should go see X program. When we built this facility, it was district initiated. There were other programs that the district initiated versus me as an individual board member saying, I want to go visit Myrtle Beach and go see a school at Myrtle Beach over the summer because I think it's important. I think if it's district initiated, then the district manages that. If it's board initiated, then that would need to come up for a vote to the board, is what Dr. Davis just explained.
Okay, but that's nowhere in policy. And I just want to say that since you said this is second reading, right? Dr.
Correct.
Davis? So I would
Well, we
like,
had the first reading before, yes.
okay, so I would like to make a motion that we strike meetings, conferences, and seminars that are considered official business of the board are those hosted by the South Carolina School Board Association, SCSBA, National School Board Association, NSBA, and Consortium of State School Board Association, COSSBA, COSBA, as well as the annual South Carolina Association of Schools Administrators, I3 Conference, SCASA I3. Board approval is required for a board member to attend a meeting, conference, or seminar hosted by any other organization. I would like that whole underlined part to be struck, because if it's not in those four that I just read, then it will require board approval for us to attend any other meeting, conference, or seminar hosted by any other organization. So that is, in fact, stifling board members, especially when it was not on there before. If the new board coming on decides to vote for that, then fine. But we need to at least give them the opportunity. So this is second reading.
All right, motion made by Mrs.
Second.
McFadden, seconded by Mrs. Agostini. Is there any further discussion? I'm just going to say, it's unbelievable to me. I mean, we're having all this. We can't change policy, which Ms. Mackey stated. We are still existing board members with the full authority of the position until we're no longer here. And I've never seen the disrespect like this before. But secondly, you know what? The only student discussion that we had today was our preamble, was the inspirational moment. Only student discussion. I've already got
Mr. Manning, you and Dr. Davis are the ones who make the agenda.
Point of order, Mr. Manning.
I'm speaking.
Point of
I'm
order.
speaking. I'm
Point of
speaking.
order. This is not
speaking.
germane to the topic.
Oh, it is germane to the topic.
No, it's not. We are talking about
the fact
policy.
that we have threats
Point
already
of order.
that the new board is going to immediately, their first point of action, according to Ms. McFadden, should be adult activities, where we can travel and where we can't travel, not student activities. I think that shows where the heart of certain individuals are. If that is the first action of the new board, I think that we are off to a wrong start.
And that's
in my
exactly
opinion.
why I said that, because
So
that would have to be something
is there
that we
any
would
other
have to deal
discussion
with.
on this topic?
Mr. Manning.
Ms. Mackey.
With regard to if this this edition makes sure that there's no abuse of where people travel and what they do. It's intended to not put the administration in a difficult situation. And if someone wants to attend a conference that is not listed here, what is the problem with seeking board approval? There's been an overarching concern to have full transparency. Well, that would be the ultimate full transparency, so I don't understand why there is a problem with board approval. May I finish, Mr. Chair? Thank you.
Ms. Mackey
Yeah,
speaking.
thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure why there'd be a problem with board approval, particularly since there's been such an emphasis on a new board.
Also, for the record, I need to note that Dr. Scott has left. She said that she needed to leave the meeting and will not return. Is there any other discussion on the secondary motion made by Ms. McFadden? With that, we'll take the vote. Motion fails 2 yes, 4 no, 1 not present. All right, we're back to the original motion that was made by Mrs. Mackey. Is there any other discussion on the original motion? With that, we'll take the vote. Motion passes 4 yes, 2 no, and 1 not present. All right, we will now move on to item 10.1, which for those who were present at the beginning of the meeting, this was changed and voted on to be a non-action item. So this is for information only, a presentation on the 8% bond resolution. Dr. Davis.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask our Senior Chief Financial and Operations Officer, and if our Chief Financial Officer may join him as well, to kind of give an overview and the briefing around the bond resolution. I would like to say, and I say this tongue in cheek, that let's make it very clear that the money is not coming to me. Right? So it's money for the use of the school district, and that we work as a team to decide where the funds is going to go. But of course, I do recognize, and I would like to say on an oversight on the administration's part, is that we realize that we do have 2 board members who are fortunate to be governing a school district that has not had to ask for the 8% bond 8% bond resolution while they served on the school in the school district. If you go back in history, prior to the 2018 bond referendum, as Dr. Miller has there, you would see that we did 8% every year for probably 10, 12 years in a row. It never required as much need, I guess, of notifying the public. And I understand that the political temperature, the transparency concerns and things like that have changed since the last 2 or 3 superintendents. But that has never been the issue. We've always been able to do 8%, and I think we did 8% annually at $10 million. So over that 10-year period of $10 million, it was a total of $100 million of 8%. We're asking for up to $25 million, primarily to assist us with things that we need to do in our schools that we can't do with our bond that was passed in 2018. And I think Dr. Miller may be able to give some difference between those 2 things, the actual bond referendum and this 8% bond issuing that we will do, which will allow us to take care of some of the needs. But I do think it is important that now that we have a kind of a new tenor, that the public and our board knows as much as they need to know about what we plan to do with the 8%. And if we need all of the $25 million, which we may not, but we want to make sure that we borrow as much as we need in order to take care of the district's needs. Dr. Miley.
Thank you. And you're generous to have accepted some of the blame, but I take full responsibility. Dr. Davis's comment about not that this is routine. Borrowing bond money is never routine or boring, but it really had been happening every year and so I apologize. I should have taken more aggressive effort to inform the board. We will be doing that over the next week or 2, as well as the community. There were several good comments tonight, but I take full responsibility for that. And one of the things that we want to make sure everybody understands is that we do have recurring capital improvements that are outside the eligibility of our bond referendum projects. It is true, we authorized $568 million, you did? 468, just million, 100 million here, 100 million there, But you authorized $468 million. So far, we've sold roughly $330 million. We're very proud of that, and we were proud of the projects that we've completed and the ones we're undertaking. We're also proud that we have not had any tax increase after issuing $330 million. I'm confident that if we were to issue $25 million over the next 3 to 6 months, I don't think we'll have a tax increase there either. But the markets will dictate that more than anything. But we do have improvements that are required for our project, for our facilities. We have 6 million square feet under roof. Industry standards, and I gave the same discussion in our bond referendum education series. We have 6 million square feet under roof. Go look it up. Industry standards suggest $2 to $4 a square foot for annual maintenance. You are a homeowner, you know it costs, you maintain your property or it deteriorates. So $2 to $4 a square foot on $6 million is anywhere from $12 million a year to $24 million a year. We have historically been spending less than 10 on our facility improvements. I think we can maintain our facilities in excellent shape. So we are asking, we have improvements that we need, capital needs beyond, that are not eligible for our bond referendum funds that we'll need to make. In my example, in our bond referendum education series, I made it clear that the district has really has two options for capital improvements. We have our general fund that pays for our operating, but when it comes to capital improvements, we have 8% funds. And for those of you who don't know what 8% means, there's a state law that allows a local government, city, county, school district, to borrow up to 8% of their assessed value without going to the voters. That's what we did for the last 10 years or so. We borrowed on our 8% capacity, allowed by law, we borrowed funds to make those capital improvements. If you need more than that, you have to go to the voters in a referendum. And that's what we did in 2018. We were fortunate that May of 18 was the last 8% bond issue we made that we sold. Did our needs stop? No. We kept making those improvements. We had a lot of IT improvements that were eligible for the bond, under the bond referendum. We made other capital improvements, and when I say that, I'm talking about relatively routine things like flooring, carpeting, painting, roofs, AC compressors, boilers, regular parking lot repayments, capital improvements that must be done to maintain our facilities like we like them in premier fashion and safe. If you need more than that, you have to go to a bond referendum. And so what we did, we were able to use, the reason why we didn't borrow money after May 18, we were able to have, fortunately had a surplus in our general fund operating, and the board approved using some of those surplus funds for capital improvements, which helped us not have to go to the bond market and borrow any 8%. So it's been 4 cycles since we borrowed any money. We were averaging about $10 million a year. So that's about 40, Dr. Davis mentioned $100 million that we had borrowed over 2008 to 18. There were $40 million that we didn't borrow. But now we're reaching the point where we don't know what our audit's going to do. We're hoping if we have another superior audit and we have excess surplus funds that we bring to the board, and the board might approve that for some capital improvements, that would be great. That would take some pressure off the need to issue any 8% debt. We don't know that yet. The audit isn't finished. What we were hoping was to issue this, have you approve the resolution. Doesn't mean we sell them, but it means we have the authority to go to the market and borrow those funds if needed. I will make sure that we put together a more detailed list of those improvements. Our team has detailed lists. They have been working on, that's their job. Tommy Carter has a detailed list of IT improvements that we need. Right now, they're close to $10 million a year. Will Anderson has his improvements for other maintenance, other issues. They're close to $10 million a year or more. So we know we have improvements that we'll have to make, and so we know unless we have a substantial surplus in our operating budget this after the audit, we'll be going to the market for 8% funds, and that's why we came to you with this resolution. I'm happy that we've had a chance to talk about it. I welcome the comments from the public. It's not urgent. We were hoping we would like it to have it passed so that when the market is ready and we do need the funds, we can move and sell those bonds. But if a few weeks or a month is not going to interrupt our plans, and we look forward to working with you. I think I've just about covered all the things I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I don't think we're going to have a tax increase. We do not estimate a tax increase from this bond issue, even if we were to sell all 25 in the next 6 months. But we're hoping that we don't have to do that depending on our audit. And with that, I'll stop and see if you have any questions.
All right, Dr. Dave, or Dr. Miley, I'll go around and start with Ms. Agostini and work my way around. But Harry, if you can just clarify one thing for me, please. It's not 8%. We can't borrow 8% a year. It's a total of up to 8% of our assessed value.
Well, I didn't want to boast, but another thing that the district has been very managing our debt with the bond referendum and not borrowing 8% over the last 4 years. The 8% is defined by a number. 8% of whatever your assessed value is. Let's say your assessed value is $400 million in the district of all property. 8% would be $32 million. Our capacity right now is right around $47 million, and we have all the capacity. So we don't have to issue 8% each year. Our 8% capacity right now is close to $47 million, and so we're recommending authorizing 25 of that for our improvements.
Right, so that 47 million is total. So if you borrowed 47 million until you started paying money back, you couldn't go back and
Exactly.
borrow more.
Exactly.
So it caps. So you couldn't like go build a school or usurp the taxpayers' authority for large capital expenses, essentially. Correct. Okay, all right, Mrs. Agostini.
And thank you, Dr. Miley, for clarifying and explaining to the public and refreshing me on this. What is our current fund balance?
In our last audit, I think it was 70, it was 71 or 81? I don't remember.
Okay, so we don't, that would be information that I would like to know the next time we have it, brought to us, and then also what we...
That's another reason why we want to wait till our audit is finished, because we'll have a new estimate of our fund balance at that time.
Okay, so we don't have an estimate of what we expect to go into it as well?
Correct. Our audit's not finished. Our last audited number for fund balance is from June 30, 21. So our June 30, 22 fund balance will not be known until we are finished with our audit.
And do we have an idea of when we expect that to happen?
State law says December 1.
December 1st, okay. And those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Caution-Parker?
As a former principal and working at the district office, I'm very familiar with this 8%. But I was going to suggest for those people on the board, especially a couple of them that don't understand what we're talking about, what you're talking about, if you could go back prior to 2018, maybe go to 2017, anyway, the last time we did ask for the 8%, and come up with a listing of everything that it covered. How the principals submitted requests for things that they need to have replaced to fix at their schools. I think that would help tremendously to get a better understanding as to what this money is for and where it's going and how it is separate from the bond referendum of 2018.
We have that information from previous 8% issues. And in fact, that's one of the things that Will Anderson and his team does, is he goes to school sites and gets information from the principals. Oh, my playground is deteriorating. Look at this part of the playground, and oh, I need that fixed. Look at these holes in the parking lot. What? I'm making those up because we don't have any holes in parking lots and we don't have any broken playground equipment. But that's the type of thing we get that input from those principals for what their needs are. We rarely can satisfy all the principals.
Absolutely, I know very well. I know that well.
So we do our best.
But I think presenting that information to board members and to the public, maybe even put it online. I don't know how you would do that, but I think that would help give people better clarity, because somebody pushed this panic button deliberately and instigated all this hullabaloo. But I read an email. We received an email. I think we all did, from a parent today. Talking about it, and I wanted to respond to her so bad and said, it's not going to affect you like that. This is not what this money's for. But I do think that having the grassroots as to what is being spent on, I think that would help tremendously.
We can do that.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Mackey.
Mr. Manning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dr. Holmes, I'll come to you.
Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Molly, you mentioned a history of positive audits and making sure and hoping that our next is positive as well. What is our history of positive audits in this district? Is that something that's uncommon, or is it typically commonplace?
I think we've made a contribution to fund balance for something like 12 or 15 years, maybe. Our last 3 audits have been even better. I think, well, I can't remember the exact number, but I know that we allocated $3.5 million for capital improvements 3 years ago. 2 years ago, we allocated $3.5 million again for capital improvements. And in the last year, we allocated $10 million in capital improvements. So over those, that again took pressure, that $17 million that we didn't have to issue for 8%, which again took pressure off of our need for issuing 8% bonds.
Thank you, Dr. Miley. There was a mention made this evening during public participation about the quality of bond ratings we had. Can you speak briefly to our history of bond ratings, or of our financial ratings in this district? I'm just curious.
Well, we're good credit risk according to bond rating agencies. I believe we have as high a rating as any other school district in the state, and there are a lot of factors about that.
It's
that
consistent.
lead to that. History is one of the biggest ones, and balanced budget or others and things like that. But we're real proud of that.
That's my understanding. I simply wanted to state that for the record. Final question, with regard to there being no sort of oversight, as there were, to 8% money. Can you explain to me how R2i2 is a nice facility? Do you agree? It's multifunctional. The library enjoys this. Our district offices, this conference center. It's a nice building. Wouldn't you agree?
Very nice building.
Can you explain how we funded R2i2?
R2i2 was funded from various sources, primarily through savings from the 2008 bond referendum.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest savings was Westwood High School. It was constructed during the 08-09 recession, which helps building costs. It's not fun for people that get unemployed, but it helps building costs. And we were able to save about $32 million, I believe. I wasn't here at the time, but that was a big chunk of what helped fund this, because it was budgeted for about $94 million, I believe, the high school. And
So it's good to be able to have those liberties to meet those needs at times. No further questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Miley.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Holmes?
Yes, Ms. Mackey asked a few of my questions, and so did Dr. Caution Parker, having worked with money before, but I think this is really important. Thank you, Dr. Miley, for making this presentation, because I think that this kind of calms down the community from a lot of misinformation that was going out there today. I like the idea that we do need to let the public see how this money will be used. I think that that's part of the biggest panic. And the other part of it is I think we need to make sure that there is an understanding that this is not going to increase taxes. I think that's the other concern. The punch list idea is perfect, because I think that the school people, personnel will appreciate knowing where the money goes, and so do parents. Also, lastly, Dr. Miley, you said something about the fund budget, but I couldn't hardly hear you. When will that be available for the June 2022? You said the date, but I couldn't hear you.
We don't know exactly when the audit will be finished, but it's due to the State Department of Education by December the 1st. So we are working diligently. Our entire team is working on that to make that happen on time, and we hope to make that December 1st deadline.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mallon. I appreciate you, because you're always so detailed, and thank you for doing this presentation.
Happy to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. I got you. No, Ms. McFadden? No, Ms. McFadden, go ahead, please.
So I do have different types of questions than my counterparts. So I was interested in this resolution. So this is basically saying, from my understanding, on page 2, section 3, right about the second paragraph, that very last sentence says, after the sale of bonds, the superintendent shall submit a written report to the board setting forth the results of the sale of the bond. Before that, the beginning of the paragraph starts, the board hereby designates to the superintendent the authority to receive bids on behalf of the board and the authority to award the sale of the bonds to the lowest bidder, therefore in accordance with the terms of the notice of the sale of the bonds, provided the true interest cost of the board does not exceed 5% per annum. The next sentence, after the sale of the bonds, the superintendent shall submit a written report to the board setting forth the results of the sale of the bonds. My concern is that this resolution is saying that we, the board, are giving him the permission to receive the bids, sell the bids, and give us a report afterward. That means there's no first reading, second reading, third reading, board vote, or public input. And I was the one who sounded the alarm, as Cheryl said, because when I was going through this, I thought, oh my God, help. Because on the next page, it says, the school district and the registrar paying agent, which is actually the U.S. Bank and Trust Company, may deem or treat the person in whose name any fully registered bond shall be registered upon the registry book as the absolute owner of such bond, whether such bond shall be overdue or not, for the purpose of receiving payment of the principal of and interest on such bond, and for all other purposes, and all such payments so made to any such registered owner or upon his or her order shall be valid and effectual to satisfy and discharge the liability upon such bond. And my question is, who is the registered owner and who is the designee?
I'm not a bond counsel attorney, and that's why we have a bond counsel. It's a very specialized field, and I can certainly get you answers for those, but the bond document that you have in front of you is the same one that school districts, state government, county councils, and our district have used for roughly 30 years or so, adjusted by changes in law. And so I'm comfortable with the language in the bond resolution right now, but I can get you answers for those questions.
Okay, and I would like to say thank you for that. However, I'm asking you as our financial CEO, who this person's going to be. And you can't tell me.
I can't.
You are so far more advanced financially than I am. So, and I'm going to put that out there. I understand that completely.
Ms. McFadden,
No.
please don't put down our senior.
I'm not. I absolutely am not.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
You didn't ask the question ahead of time. Had he been asked ahead of time, he could have provided the answer. He said we have bond counsel. We are not here to put down and diminish our staff.
For this.
You just did. You just questioned his ability.
No, okay, if that's what you think I did, I'm sorry, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that this is put on the agenda for me, who is absolutely nowhere near financially in tune as Dr. Miley is, and I'm asked to vote for this, and that's why I asked for it to be tabled, because I'm reading this, and I can't try to understand who these people are. But I was supposed to vote for it tonight. Dr. Miley, I did not mean to insult you. That's not what I was trying to say. Sometimes when I'm saying something, it doesn't come out the way that I intended to say. I'm saying that you are so much more financially in tune than I am, and I'm asking these questions because I'm going to have to vote on this. And when I was going through this, there's some questions that I'm not sure about. I know that you are. That's why I'm asking you. And I appreciate you coming up to do this presentation. But when push comes to shove, it's going to be the board. And I'm sitting on this board right now. And so it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm understanding.
The bond buyer will not be known until at the sale. And we have not scheduled a sale. We have not passed a resolution to have a sale. And the bond buyer will be known at the time of the public sale. So I don't know who that is. It'll be a public bid.
And we won't
but it will be known at the time of the sale.
According to this, we won't know that either until after it's already sold. Because he will have the ability to go ahead and receive the bid.
Mrs. McFadden, I would ask that you please work with staff. Present your questions in writing. Staff will get with bond counsel and help to answer the questions that you have.
This is for the public as well.
Well, you can read it to the public later, Ms. McFadden. Right now, I'm asking you to please submit your questions to Dr. Miley so that he can answer. We're not voting on anything tonight. There's plenty of opportunity for you to share with the public whatever the results
But
are.
that's why I decided to
From the,
table it.
from
because
the
there were
email. I
things
understand.
that
So we
didn't
did
understand.
table it, and now you have the opportunity to go back to staff and put your questions in writing. I'm asking that you do that. If you have other questions other than like detailed questions within the bond document, I will allow you to ask that. But to go through word by word when Dr. Miley clearly has said he needs to refer to bond counsel, I'm asking you to submit the questions so that you can get the accurate answers from the experts that we hire to know those answers. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Dr. Miley. I think, but just be prepared just in case there's another question that may come up. But I appreciate you,
Thank you.
Sharing the information with the board.
Thank you.
I do for our community. I apologize that this conversation is taking such a different spin than what we anticipated. As I stated before, I've been a member of this district since 1999 as an administrator, and I've never seen a robust conversation about the bond, and that's okay, because I think individuals should be able to have their questions answered. And there may be some misunderstanding about when you see the term superintendent. I can just say, just to ease anybody's fear or concern about the funds and my involvement in them, I have very little. I know it says the superintendent, but I don't sit down and decide who I sell the bonds to. I'm not a part of that process. That's just standard language. Not a superintendent in the state probably sits down and does that anywhere that I have ever heard. It's typically handled through the experts who are the CFO and your bond counsel when the bonds go to sale for your school district. But I'm not a part of necessarily all involved in that decision making, so I'm not picking and choosing. I don't think any of my predecessors who did this were picking and choosing which bonds or who was going to buy and purchase our bonds. It doesn't work like that, and I think we may need to try to, if we can lower the temperature a little bit and try to get a really good understanding of where the knowledge gap may exist between what we need to accomplish to make a board member feel more comfortable with the idea. If we choose not to do a bond resolution, I would like to state that I think, because we talk about the public, and I like numbers and data. I appreciate our family member who came up to the mic today to share with us their concerns about the bond, but I haven't received any other communications from the public. I do know that there's the same group that resides on Facebook that continuously talks about everything and typically tries to influence a lot of things with a lot of negative rhetoric about the bond referendum, knowing actually how it works, but also taking advantage of understanding that others may not. And so they stir the pot and you get results such as this. But the bottom line is, if we don't do the bond resolutions at some point, they can be pushed off. We don't have to do them. And it may be 5, 6, 10 years from now. But what we will see if we do that, we will see schools not looking like you're used to them looking. One of the sources of pride for our schools, regardless of how old they are, a school like a Conda Elementary that was built in 1958, but when you go into a 1958 school, it doesn't look like it was built in 1958. It has the fluorescent lights. It has the technology needs that students need in order to be world-class scholars and preparation. We have several schools that continuously need constant improvement, that they're being painted on a 5-year cycle, that carpets being redone, that floors are being redone. You can't have an organization or a school system with 41 schools, not including our district offices and other facilities, and maintain them to a high quality of standard that people want to work in, that the lighting is good, that the air quality is good, that the floors are nice, that the desks are appropriate for your sons and daughters or our sons and daughters to sit at, that they have the technology needs, their technology needs are being met, they have water filtration systems in their buildings. They have the things that they need in order to fully thrive. And we are fortunate and blessed in this school district to have that, because every school district does not have the things that we have. And we've done a phenomenal job, not just this administration, but Dr. Ham's administration, Dr. Brochu's administration, and Dr. Hefner's administration, in ensuring that our buildings always look great and that we don't have leaking roofs and busted windows and things like that, that we can take care of our school district. And that's what it allows us to do. I'm looking forward to being able to share with the board all the needs of what we plan to do with this money. And I understand, it's not just you, Donna, I understand that there's a higher level of scrutiny for transparency for this administration. But I look forward to sharing all the details and all as much as we can so that the community or the individuals that we're talking to, because I haven't spoken to anyone with any concerns, but the individuals that we're talking to are comfortable with how we decide to spend the money that might not equal up to 25.
Dr. Davis, I want to counter one thing that you said, and there's a reason I'm going to take some exception to how this is being done, not the questions. Chip Jackson, Bill Fleming, Craig Plank all sat down with our finance officers, asked questions of bond counsel, and all did deep dives. But what they didn't do is have this adversarial nature or tone with administration about the way that this is being done. Every single one of them, business owners, Mr. Plank, who deals with bonds in his business, Chip Jackson, who dealt with state-level financial issues, is a deputy chief with the State Department of Education, all asked these questions. Ms. Agostini's done some deep dives on our bond before and asked some questions about bond language. This idea that everything has to be adversarial and that there's this got you moment with our staff is the difference. It's not that the questions weren't asked and understood. It's just that folks did their due diligence in meeting with staff before they came into the public meeting so that they had time and opportunity to truly educate themselves on these issues. And not that they didn't come to the meetings and talk about things that they learned and put things out there so that the public was aware and understood. But we didn't come up here and put down our chief financial officer. We didn't tell Dr. Davis how he's being, accuse him of being unethical, accuse me as the board chair of trying to force something down somebody's throat. People did their due diligence and met with staff ahead of time to get educated. But now all of a sudden we want to do everything in public so that I can show that I'm the smartest person in the room, or that I'm the one, checking behind your back, or I got you, or whatever. The questions are legitimate. I'm not saying not to get your answer, Ms. McFadden. I'm saying there's another way to do it that's not as adversarial, and not asking you to say support the bond. You can absolutely, in your role, not support any bond ever. That is your right as an elected official on this board. I'm asking that we just educate ourselves, take time outside of these public meetings to truly understand and ask our questions in a way that's not adversarial. That's what I'm asking.
Thank you, Mr. Manning.
Mrs. Agostini, I think you had your hand up earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Manning.
I don't remember what I was going to say, but thank you.
Okay. Now, Ms. Mackey, and then I'm cutting this off, or we need to move on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say thank you, Dr. Miley, with your PhD in financial matters, a resume with financial matters that probably only compares to Shelley in the room, and the former chair of the BEA, Board of Economic Advisors. I could go on and on and on. I don't think you'd stand here and try to dupe us in our meetings, so I appreciate the information you've shared. One of the things that Chip Jackson told me when I got on the board, he and I had a good relationship before I got on the board, and he knew that I was a community advocate. He knew that I advocated from School Improvement Council hat and from a parental hat. The first thing he told me is, when you get on this board, He said, you need to change the hat that you wear. You are not going to be here advocating and rallying the crowds from this perspective. You are here to set policy. You're here to do your due diligence. The first thing he told me, I'm sorry, that was one. The second one was do your homework. He admonished me to do my homework. He admonished me to study my board packet. He admonished me to ask questions of staff members when I wasn't sure of issues, and I did. You get on here as a board member because you got the most votes, either the top 4 vote getters or the top 3 vote getters. But there's a learning curve when you get here for some people, and it is incumbent upon us to do our homework and to take advantage of staff members and Dr. Davis and the resources available to us so that we can be the most effective board members we can. It is incumbent upon us to do our own homework. For what you've presented here, Dr. Miley, thank you. I respect you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and say what I was going to say while they take their resource.
We're in a recess. I can please have all board members return to the front, please. If I can have all the board members please return to the front. Mrs. Agostini, if I can please have all board members, Ms. Mackey, please return to the front. All right, Dr. Holmes, we have you on the phone.
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Manning.
All right, we're going to move on, Dr. Davis, to 11.1, your report on the Richland 2 highlights.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, it is indeed a privilege to have the opportunity at each board meeting to share all the positive highlights here in Richland School District 2. And today, more so than any other day, we have several highlights that we want to share. As you can hear, my voice is a little raspy, and so Elizabeth Ruth, our senior chief for communications, has graciously agreed to read the Richland 2 highlights. Thank you, Libby.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. It is my pleasure to fill in for you. As y'all know, we organize the highlights around the 4 core values in this district: learning, character, community, and joy. And so we will begin with learning. Students at all 5 high schools in Richland 2 have earned academic honors from the College Board National Recognition Programs. According to the College Board, the students earned this recognition because of their academic achievements in school and outstanding performance on the PSAT and/or AP exams. Under the program, students could receive the National African American Recognition Award, the National Hispanic Recognition Award, the National Rural and Small Town Award, and/or the National Indigenous Award. Blythewood High School's National African American Recognition Award winners are Bryce Allen, Noah Brown, Ano Calhoun, Zanaya Castile, Bryce Cruz, Blue Martin, Corbin McCullum, Stephen Ozagiwana Jr., and Carlise Sears, Christian Stewart, Aja Williams, Ava Woods, and Drayden Young. Richland Northeast High's National African American Recognition Award winners are Tamron Buford, Adidalak Boom Pham Uide, Everett Joyner, Kenyon McBee, Freya Morley, LaDeja Williams, and Tyshawn Witherspoon. Ridgeview High School's National African American Recognition winners are Amanda Anderson, Tamia Shapil, Edward Davis, Taylor Graham, Layla Hill, Umari Hunt, Taryn Myers, Morgan Perry, Kennedy Pogue, Grayson Simmons, and Bryson Williams. Ridgeview High School also had National Hispanic Recognition Award winners, and they are Sophia Delancey and Adriana Pinto Rios. Spring Valley's National African American Recognition winners are Everlast Chagoba, Myron Dobson, Mark Hines, Anya Hopkins, Rachel Johnson, Salia Salters, Antoine Scott, Mackenzie Simmons, Xavier Simmons, William Smith II, and Ryan Young. Hispanic recognition winners from Spring Valley include Maximiliano Hernandez and Gabriela Mieja. Westwood High School's National African American Recognition Award winners are Ella Boston and Ariel Caldwell and Ivana Thigpen. Westwood High School also had the district's only National Rural and Small Town Award winner, and that goes to McKenna Brown. For the character portion of our report tonight, Dr. Davis' report, we want to highlight our district principals. As you know, October is National Principals Month, and it's time for honoring principals for their significant impact on the success and well-being of students. Our principals would not be able to do this without utilizing a myriad of character traits that are needed for the many situations they encounter daily. We are celebrating the work of our principals by featuring each of them in a local newspaper advertisement in the Country Chronicle and Northeast News. We want to thank our principals for their fearless leadership, their steadfast commitment, and passion for this work. Thank you for your faithfulness, loyalty, cheerful attitudes, and of all the great things you do to make this district premier. In the area of community, October provides us with lots of opportunities to celebrate important things in our school district. One of those is National School Bus Safety Week, which was actually last week, but it's always important to talk about school bus safety. So a big hats off to all of our school bus drivers who transport our students to and from school every day and to other school-related activities. We would not be able to successfully operate the school district without our bus drivers, and on behalf of everyone, we thank them so much. And for our public and those who drive around our school buses, please make sure you are aware of all the laws and safety procedures that you need to follow in order to keep our students and our bus drivers safe. Students at 24 schools in Richland 2 participated in the state's 21st annual National Day of Concern and Student Pledge. This was on October 19th. This was against gun violence. Students in middle and high schools are signing a voluntary pledge promising they will never take a gun to school, will never resolve a dispute with a gun, and will use their influence to prevent friends from using guns to resolve disputes. Elementary school students pledge not to touch a gun if they see it, to tell a teacher, and to assume all guns are loaded. Last week was America's Safe Schools Week. Significant efforts are underway in our district and in schools across the country to improve safety and security. While district leaders continuously seek ways to be proactive when it comes to school safety, our success depends on the support and involvement of our entire community. And for some joy, for the 35th consecutive year, the Association of School Business Officials International awarded Richland 2 the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. ASBO's International Certificate of Excellence recognizes districts that have met the program's high standards for financial reporting and transparency. Richland 2 earned the Certificate of Excellence for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2021. At its annual conference this month in Orlando, Florida, the American Association of School Personnel Administrators recognized the outstanding work we are doing in the areas of personnel services and diversity, equity, inclusion. The organization selected Senior Chief Human Resource Officer Sean Williams to receive the Herb Salinger Personnel Administrator of the Year Award, and it bestowed the distinguished William L. Hunter Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Award upon the district, thanks to the district's efforts through the Premier 100 program. The architectural designers of the Center for Knowledge North will be recognized in a ceremony next month. The 2022 Design Awards jury for the AIA Columbia chapter will present Goodwin Mills Kaywood with the Merit Award in new construction for the work they did for CFK North at a ceremony to be held Thursday, November 3rd. And that concludes tonight's district highlights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roof. It's interesting we have certain board members that'll fight about travel but leave when we have positive comments about students and choose to not be in the room. We'll now move on to capital improvements.
Good evening. Good evening. Here to give a brief report on our monthly report for capital improvements and the bond projects. You can see on your screen there the completed projects. That list is still the same from last meeting in September. Under construction, we have nothing new under construction from last time. Condor started construction in September, but everything else is currently under construction with those dates, and I'll have more pictures to show shortly. And currently we have 5 schools in design, and we'll have a couple more images of those here in a second. So you can see E.L. Wright and CFK. E.L. Wright has currently tentatively scheduled for a final inspection from the Office of School Facilities on November the 17th. That date's tentative, but that's our plan. Once that gets final inspection, gets passed, we'll be moving in. We did get DHEC inspection approved for the kitchen today, for example. Richland Northeast High School continues to move forward. The auditorium picture there on your left did pass inspection, so we can move officially into Northeast Auditorium. You can see the continued work. They're now moving toward the cafeteria and the other side of the school in that the other courtyard. Joseph Keels is under construction. You can see the footprint of the new addition there and interior renovations. So we're excited about the new facelift at Joseph Keels. The Performing Arts Center, again, as well, here behind us, under construction. Moving very fast. A lot of these pictures are dated. We've had very good weather, knock on wood, so we were able to do a lot of good work here at site work at Performing Arts and Joseph Keels. I don't have any very good pictures of Condor just yet, so I'll share those next time. These are some very early renderings of some of our projects in schematic design. These may change, but just want to give you an idea of some of the work coming. You can see some images on the top of the Bookman Roads Media Center. The bottom left is a collaboration space, and you can see some outdoor learning there on the right as we look into some collaboration. Killian Elementary, you can see some outdoor learning. In addition, on your bottom left, collaboration space and the media center at the top left picture. Pontiac Elementary School, you can see in the middle, that's a new addition inside their interior courtyard. Really, and then connecting all the pieces together with the Montessori, really creating more Montessori spaces for Pontiac, but really utilizing that interior courtyard. Here, don't have any pretty pictures of Blythewood, but you can get an idea of the areas we're touching. The areas in yellow are renovations. The areas in blue are additions to Blythewood Middle School. Spring Valley High School, the picture, the floor plan on your left is of the multi-purpose room, which is that big blank space that I like to call looking like an old Kmart. And then the top right is, I did say that, yeah. The image on your top right is the new field house, which may be on Stern Field, and then the picture on your left is the renovations in addition to Bates Hall. Other projects, we're about 85% complete with our camera conversion. We're working on our access controls. All buses have been purchased, and our security projects are ongoing. There's our balances with our budgets as of September. This first bullet should say cost increases have kind of stabilized for right now, but they're extremely high. We've had over 18 months of 10% inflation, and so the costs are really high. For example, we just got a quote in for intercom for Ridgeview High School, $150,000. That same intercom for just a part of Ridgeview High School, that same intercom last year was $70,000, or a year and a half ago. We are still having supply chain issues, but we tend to be getting better with some of the things. Labor is tight, but so far, knock on wood, we haven't had any major impacts on our timeline. And you can learn more about all of our projects on our website, and we'll continue to do our monthly updates. Mr. Manning, any questions?
Thank you, Will. Other board members, questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Shows that we have good stewardship of the bonds that we've issued. Demonstrate that we stay on point with the work that we say that we're going to do, get it done in a timely manner and on budget. So thank you. Next, we have draft agenda items. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the board, if you would look at the draft agenda items for the November 18th board meeting. The November 18th board meeting is a special call board meeting. The meeting is scheduled to be called to order at 6 p.m. with the first order of business is to call it to order. We will then approve or ask for the approval of the agenda. We only have items under new business action requested, and this will be the nomination of the chair of the Board of Trustees for the remainder of the 22-23 school year, a nomination of vice chair for the same time period, and then certification of delegates for the 2022 South Carolina School Boards Association Delegate Assembly, as well as the South Carolina Association School Board Association for Region and Director nominations. And just for our community that are watching and that's here, this will be the very first order of business for our new board members. And so it's important that we get them in, get them sworn in, address these issues, and then our very first official business will follow at the next, I believe the next Tuesday, which will be their first board meeting.
All right, board members, questions, comments on the draft agenda? Ms. Agostini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When are they taking their oath of office?
I believe it is on the same day, Mrs. Agostini. It's just prior to this, prior to the start of the board meeting.
Okay, because, well, in years past, I've taken it during the meeting, so this is not, there's not going to be something during the meeting too?
No, I believe last year we did not do it during the meeting. Well, I'm sorry, 2 years ago, we didn't do it during the meeting. We actually held it in here prior to the start of the meeting, and then we came out and conducted. In the past, I think in your first go-round, we actually did do it in the meeting. Yes.
We did a ceremonial 2 years ago, but if we do it before the meeting, that's fine too.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't recall. I do recall being in
We did it back there, and then my daughter gave me it ceremonial right here, but that's fine.
All right, other questions or comments? All right, then we'll move on to item 13.1, approval of that draft agenda. If I can have a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Mackey.
I move to approve the draft agenda items for November 18th, 2022.
Second.
Regular board meeting.
Motion made by Ms. Mackey, seconded by Ms. McFadden. Is there any other discussion? With that, we'll take the vote.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a point of order. I would like to get some clarification. As you know, there's often opportunities to scrutinize the minute issues of our minutes. And so I have caught that stated is, I think Ms. Mackey said regular.
I just caught that. I apologize. If I could amend my motion, I just caught that. It's not a regular board meeting. It's a special called board meeting. Please allow me to amend my motion to special called board meeting, not regular.
Okay, and it's actually stated, I believe, that way on the screen.
It is.
So you're.
It is. Just making my motion that's verbal and what's in writing.
Ms. McFadden, are you still good with your second for that motion? Okay, so we've, can you turn on your mic and say yes into the mic, please?
Yes, second.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have the motion that's on the screen. Just to be clear again, we're approving the draft agenda for the November 18th, 2022 special called board meeting, and that was seconded by Ms. McFadden, who agreed that is the intent of the motion. At this time, we will take the vote. Motion passes 6 yes, 1 not present. We have no one signed up for the second public participation. And so we will move on now to item 15.1, board recognitions. Dr. Davis.
Public participation?
We didn't have, so we had no one signed up for public participation. I moved on to 15.1, the board recognitions.
We're going to have Ms. Libby Ruth come and begin with the board recognitions. Ms. Ruth.
Thank you. Actually, Dr. Davis, if I could get you to come stand in front of your table, and then Dr. Caution Parker, Ms. Mackey, and Mr. Manning, if y'all would join him. It's good, Mr. Smith. They're coming in. They're coming back in. So tonight is the last regularly scheduled board meeting for 3 board members who are not seeking another term. And will say a few words, and then Dr. Davis will present a small token of the district's appreciation, and Mr. Callie is going to be our photographer tonight. So we'll begin with Dr. Cheryl Caution Parker. In November 2014, just months after retiring from the district, Dr. Caution Parker was elected to the Richland 2 School Board, and she was reelected in 2018. And during that time, she has served as board secretary for 2 years. Dr. Caution Parker is the epitome of institutional knowledge when it comes to Richland 2, thanks to her 30-plus years working in the district in a variety of capacities, including deputy superintendent. Throughout her career and during her time on the board, she has been completely dedicated to students, parents, faculty, and staff. When she speaks, she is very reflective and thoughtful and insightful, and she's not afraid to ask the hard questions and lets nothing stand in her way of doing what's right. She is very student-centered and with a big picture perspective. Mrs. Amelia Mackey's first term on Richland School District 2 Board of Trustees also began in November 2014, and she was reelected in 2018. She served as chairman, vice chairman 2 times, and twice as secretary, and currently serves as vice chair. Mrs. Mackey also serves on the South Carolina School Board Association Board of Trustees as Region 8 Director. Leading up to her election to the Richland 2 Board, Ms. Mackey supported the district through her longtime service on numerous parent-teacher student organizations and school improvement councils. Mrs. Mackey has been described as an energizer bunny, constantly working. She is fair-minded, a dedicated mom, a supporter of public education, not only at the local but the state level, and she is a strong supporter of Richland 2 and a community advocate. She always goes out of her way to recognize the hard work of the people in Richland 2 regularly and openly, and she has a gift of making people feel appreciated for the work they do regardless of their role. Following 3 terms on the board, we say farewell to Mr. James Manning, who was elected to the board in November 2010, re-elected in 2014, and again in 2018. Mr. Manning is the current board chair and has served in that role several times throughout the years. In addition, he has served as vice chair and secretary of the board. Mr. Manning has demonstrated unwavering energy when it comes to learning about and understanding every component of our school system, from early childhood education to adult ed and everything in between. He has supported an inclusive environment for all students and employees. Mr. Manning has chaired the board through some tough challenges, and he has shown great leadership. He truly cares about the district and is incredibly proud to serve as Richland 2 board member and also to be a parent in Richland 2. In recognition of your years of service, we are presenting you all with a framed print of the Little Red Schoolhouse. And not just any Little Red Schoolhouse. This is the Little Red Schoolhouse that sits on Killian Elementary's campus. And so we have one for each of you. Great. And let me borrow one real quick. There's something on there I wanted to read. I just wanted to write here what's on the print, the plaque. So the plaque says, it's a quote, "Our greatest contribution is to be sure there is a teacher in every classroom who cares that every student every day learns and grows and feels like a human being." And you all certainly have done your due diligence to support this district in trying to make that happen. And we present these in appreciation for all you have done in Richland 2. Please join me in thanking them for their service.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to leave our comments to our comment section. We don't have a need for a second executive session. So I will move on now to the board and superintendent comments. I am going to start with Ms. McFadden.
Okay, so I will say to those who are leaving, you know, when I joined the board, you guys have been on the board since I've started watching way back in 2016. And I don't know if Mr. Manning knows it or not, but they were having a discussion on policies J and K, and I was still a constituent at the time, and I went up to the table and said, "Can I see that book?" And he was like, "Sure." And when I joined, I was able to give it back to him, and, you know, and he said, you know, thanks, you know. So I want to say that you guys were an inspiration for me for joining the board to begin with. I know that we've had some tumultuous times, but I'm a very inquisitive person, so I do ask a lot of questions. Sometimes what I say may not come off as being too kind or what have you, but I will say that, you know, I appreciate y'all's leadership. It is going to be sad to see all of you guys rolling off, because you guys do have a wealth of knowledge that you can pass on to other board members, and I'm glad that I got to be able to take a part in some of that. So I will say thank you for your service. 10 years is a long time, 12 years is a long time to serve in the district, and 30 years for Cheryl being a part of this. You guys will not be easily forgotten. Thank you so much for your time, and everyone have a good night.
Ms. Agostini.
I too want to thank Dr. Caution Parker, you, Mr. Manning, and Mrs. Mackey for your service to the district, and wish you all well. Have a great night.
Thank you. Dr. Holmes?
Yes. Congratulations to all of our Teachers of the Year, and thank you to the Boys and Girls Club. And this is kind of bittersweet for me because James, Amelia, and Cheryl, I appreciate you all so much for your dedication and your service and your kindness, your all-out kindness and willing to share what you know with anyone. I appreciate you all. I am going to truly miss you all. And I will just say that thank you so much for all. I get a little emotional because I'm going to really miss you guys. Thank you so much for your service. I really appreciate you all. And the last thing I want to say, because something else kind of got to me a little bit earlier, I'd like to say that here in Richland School District 2, all children matter, and they should. All children matter, and they should. Our differences should not come into play. I just wanted to reassure those who are feeling like they don't, they do. And with that, I'd like to say good night.
Thank you. Dr. Caution Parker, I'm going to give it to you with 30 years. I'm going to hand it off to you now for your comment.
It's 42.
42, sorry.
42. I am 73, and I've been working in School District 2 for 42 years, serving in Richland 2. I started in 1980 at E.L. Wright, where Miss Ann O'Quinn, God bless her, allowed me to do my student teaching there and hired me. And at first she asked me to sub, and I said, I'll sub, I'll do whatever a teacher does. And then if I do a good job, hire me. I do not want to go through that interview process with Mr. Bulldog Tate, who's long gone now, so I can say that. But, and I want to also thank Dr. Hudgens, John Hudgens, who for some reason saw leadership in me and opened so many doors for me. Dr. Hefner is my soulmate. He's done a wonderful job. I appreciate him. I've learned so much from him working as his deputy. We used to argue behind closed doors, but when we walked out, we were one. I guarantee you it stayed that way. And I also just want to say thank you again to Ann O'Quinn over at E.L. Wright. I was voted Teacher of the Year. That's why I always get so excited seeing the Teachers of the Year come in. Teacher of the Year from E.L. Wright, and then later selected as the District Teacher of the Year. And that, to me, has been the highlight of my career. Teacher of the Year. I don't want to get all emotional, but I feel like I am. I'll save this part for last. Dr. Davis, I want to thank you for everything that you've done, and thank you for the highlights this evening. I want you to stay steady in your leadership. Regardless, you stand tall and you stand steady in your leadership. And I'm proud to have been on the board to help select you and vote for you to be our leader. You have done a great job. I appreciate you very much, and I look forward to hearing more about you. And I just want to say thank you to my family. My husband, Nate, some of you all know him, the golfer. And that's how we met him. I learned how to play golf. And he's just phenomenal, always very supportive. And my grandchildren, Gerald and Cameron, are so responsible for a lot of things that I've done lately, especially in the field of education for them. And last but not least, my kids. Melissa and Jesse. And Melissa's husband, Gerald, who was like a son to me. Just wonderful kids. They've done well, and as parents, I'm sure all of you feel this way. When your children do well, you feel good. If they're doing what they want to do and they're happy and they're doing well in life, you feel good. And that's how I feel about my kids, and I feel very blessed, very blessed. They were so little when I decided at the age of 28 to go back to school for the third time, and finally finished this time. But every time I faced a challenge, every time I felt like I just couldn't go on, I just look at them, and they spur me on, keep me going. And I appreciate them, and I would not let them come here this evening. I know Ms. Mackey let her son come, but I would not let my kids come. Oh, but anyway, I just want to say thank you to everyone. You know, 42 years, 34 in the schools and district office, and 8 on the board, and that comes up to 42, 73, so I was 31 when I started, and 10 years older than everybody else that was just starting off in the field of education. But it's been a journey. It's been a wonderful journey. I never thought that I would be here. I never thought that I would go as far as I did in education. Thank you. So I deeply appreciate, and I appreciate all of you. I know what you're going through, and some tidbits for the new board members coming in. No one answers to the board but the superintendent. No one. And so when you say things or do things that insult employees, they have legal rights. And though they don't, I haven't known any to take them here in Richland School District 2, but no one answers to the board but the superintendent. So I would caution you to be careful in how you approach people and how you present yourself. And gather facts before you present any issues. Gather as many facts as you possibly can, because there's nothing worse than jumping off on without having the proper knowledge and understanding. There's nothing worse than that than doing it in public. So those are 2 things I pass on to the new board members, whoever they may be, as of November the 8th. And with that, I'm going to be quiet and sit back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl. Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to acknowledge Ms. Elizabeth Libby Ruth's comments with regard to district highlights and accomplishments this evening. I just appreciate all that you share with us, and not everyone knows, but she will not be with us but for a few more weeks, and you'll be missed by this district. But I'm happy for the opportunities that presents you, that is good for you and for your family, but we're sure going to miss you. I want to start by saying this. I have comments that I've written down so I wouldn't forget anything. I tend to be a bit long-winded, but I wrote things down so I would stay on script and not forget anything. One of the things I said when I came on this board, and there were people who didn't like certain decisions I made or did like them, you know, and if we were going to be a friendship or family, and I used to always say, I didn't come here to make friends. I came here to do a job. I came here to be fair. I came here to be effective. And my policy setting and doing my job is all that I'm focused on. So imagine now, 8 years later, all the friends I've made. How about the irony? The irony of that, including the 2 who are completing their terms with me. They're close, near, and dear friends, and I appreciate you. It's not my last night as a board member and advocate for this wonderful district, but it is my last board meeting. Before I ran for a seat on this board, I was actively involved, community member, district volunteer, school improvement council, PTSO, all of that. But most importantly, I was a parent, and anyone who knows me knows that I love my kids, and I'm thankful to my son who drove here from Jacksonville tonight to be here, although I asked him not to, but here he is anyway. My children were blessed with a mom and dad who loved and supported them. The system they had in Richland 2 was simply icing on the cake, pressed down, running over, shaken together. It was a pleasure to be able to advocate through sound policy for all of our beautiful, diverse populations of students to be loved, to be nurtured, cared for, and supported within the walls of Richland 2 as well as within the Richland 2 community. My favorite quote, ironically, Ms. Williams, and was actually my cover page on Facebook for years, was the same thing. Dr. Seuss, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to change. It's not. As the makeup and population of our community and students changes, so must our embracing, our inclusion, our tolerance, and our compassion for those students, those family, this community, and the services that we provide. They deserve that, all of them. It's been a pleasure to be a Richland 2 ambassador, an ambassador for public education. It's not just this district, but it's for public education and all that that entails. It is our job to embrace the students that parents send us, all of them, and embrace them and provide them all the resources that they need to soar, not just the students that we're comfortable with and we can relate to and who are politically correct within our doctrine personally. It's been a pleasure to support student and teacher initiatives, accomplishments, community functions, business, stakeholders, and key partners' collaborations. When the going gets tough, that's when the tough show their mettle and what they're made of. Even if it's simply being a voice of reason, a voice of calm, of common sense, of no ill intent, a keen comprehension of issues amid chaos at times, amid disruptions at times, amid disruptors at times, even amid unconscionable behavior at times. For the tough in mind and compassionate, kind, and loving in spirit, I urge you to stay the course. Ecclesiastes 9:11 tells me, as a part of my personal faith, that the race is not given to the swift or to the strong, but to those who endure to the end. I am thankful for the voices of reason, staff members, teachers, employees, community members, parents, military families, our local elected officials, and of course I'm impartial to my rep, my senator, my council member, and I'm biased when I say that they are the best in the state. But I appreciate the collective of those bodies as well, particularly Richland County, and the voices of compassion and those who are absolutely adore our students, who absolutely enjoy giving themselves daily, and they keep the main thing the main thing. It is not always easy, but it is always important. Thank you seems woefully inadequate a sentiment, but it's all I got. At this time, if I could ask for everyone in the room who is able to please stand, who is willing and able to stand. I'm a public servant. I'm here to serve, not to be served, not to castigate anyone, not to intentionally annoy anyone, not to undermine anyone, not to play boss or bully over anyone. I am a community member, a parent, a public servant, and I appreciate all of you. You are the community that we serve, and I thank everyone standing in this room. Thank you. I could give thanks and kudos for days, but I would be remiss if I didn't thank my friends, my loved ones, my colleagues, my fellow champions for education, but in this district and throughout the state. And most importantly, my family, many of whom were here this evening. I'm thankful for all of your love, your support over the years. I am nothing without you. And my friends and family in the back of the room, you know who you are. If you'd stand, if you are willing, I'd be happy to ask you to stand again, because some of you got here a little later. I've got a support system that won't stop. I am lucky. From Mackey Nation to Butlers to the children of Eddie Ruth and to the great-grand descendants of Fannie and Abe Stewart, I was raised on love, not hate. So I'm able to pour out love, not hate. And in the absolute worst-case scenario, I am capable of simply doing no harm. The end user of the product we are dispensing in this district is children. Keep the flame lit for them. Keep the main thing the main thing. And I will be doing just that in our community. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey, very much. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Mr. Manning and members of the board. I first want to say thank you to the Boys and Girls Club. So excited to hear the news about the number of students in our school district who are participating in the Boys and Girls Club and the number of schools that we're working with. And as you know, partnership is one of our principal practices, so it's great to see that that is continued to being emphasized and coming to fruition. I also want to take a moment to recognize our Teachers of the Year at each of their schools. I've had a chance to visit them, particularly our honor roll teachers, our finalists, I should say, and also to Ms. Brunson, the winner. I had a chance to visit Ms. Brunson's classroom during the pandemic, and when I saw her, Mason, I'm sorry, Ms. Mason, I've had a chance to visit Ms. Mason's classroom at Longleaf during the pandemic. This is when we were still trying to figure out dual modality, spacing, having plexiglass in the classrooms, all those things that were going on. And she was knocking it out the box on that visit with all those factors. That class was the most organized, well-run class in middle school that I have been in many, many years. And so it was wonderful to see her recognized as Teacher of the Year to represent our wonderful school district. So I'm so thankful to her. I'm thankful to our speakers who came today and shared their various perspectives. It's good to have an opportunity to voice your opinion. And I'm appreciative. I'm so thankful and appreciative of the manner and the tone in which you shared your opinion. And I'm thankful for that, because the tenor and the rhetoric that we have experienced over the last year or so was really, really, I think, not characteristic of our community nor our school district. So for those who came today and in previous days just to share their concerns in such an elegant and professional and respectful manner, my hat's off to you, and I say thank you for being true representatives of the Richland 2 community and for our students. I know if they saw that online, they would be very proud of how their parents shared their concerns and thoughts. And so now I will leave this to my last closing remarks, and I'll go very quickly to our board, outgoing board members. And really, Erin McCarthy, who's a journalist, wrote these words, and I'm going to take part of what she shared because it ties into something that I want to share with you all. But it was on April 23rd, 1910, that Theodore Roosevelt gave what became one of the most widely quoted speeches of his career. The former president, who left office in 1909 and spent a year hunting in Central Africa, before embarking on a tour in North Africa and Europe in 1910, attended events and giving speeches in places like Cairo and Berlin. He stopped in Paris on April 23rd before a crowd of around 2,000 ticket holders. And Roosevelt delivered a speech called Citizenship in a Republic. Citizenship in a Republic, which among some and many of you would come to be known as the man in the arena. And see, Roosevelt railed against cynics who looked down at men who were trying to make the world a better place. The poorest way to face life is to face it with a sneer, he said, a cynical habit of thought and speech and readiness to criticize the work which the critic himself never tries to perform, an intellectual aloofness which will not accept contact with life's reality. All these are marks not of superiority, but of weakness. And goes on to say that it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and who comes short again and again, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those timid souls who never know victory nor defeat. And I thought that was a great summation for what we've gone through, what you've all gone through of your tenure on the board, but in particular these last several years as we entered into COVID and now we're post-COVID. So on behalf of this school district, all the students, my staff, and everyone that I can stand and be a representative for, we want to say thank you for standing tall, for demonstrating courage, for working for students and their families, for listening, for coaching, but above all, for having the will for so many years to do it. You have accepted and overcome any and all challenges. You've endured a 100-year flood, bus hijackings, curriculum adoptions, COVID, masks, teacher shortages, graduations, even the ones that are outside in the hot South Carolina sun, passing of the state's largest bond referendum, hiring the district's first black superintendent in the district's history takes courage. Creation of the state's first equity policy that is now the model policy for all school districts and used nationally, and also approving the state's first diversity and inclusion officer for a school district. You all were trailblazers and innovators. You have been true stalwarts in this district, and it has been my honor to serve as superintendent under your leadership and to stand side by side with you in the arena. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Thank you very much. Y'all know I can tend to be a crier sometimes when I get to these things. Well, first off, I want to say this isn't truly the end. We are board members until the new board is sworn in. So we still have official duties up through pretty much almost the day that they're sworn in. So you haven't heard the last of us or from us. This is just the last official meeting, board or business meeting of the board. But I want to, wow, 12 years is a long time to dedicate to anything. But I want to thank my daughter. Sorry, those who are close to me know I've been through a lot lately. I want to thank my daughter. I'd like to thank Donna. My aunt and uncle, Jim and Sandy Manning, who are the first trailblazers in elected life in the Manning family. Sandy Manning was on the Richland 1 school board. And then my uncle on county council, all of you know his white mane of hair, which I did not get the hair gene passed to me, obviously. Great mentors for me. My mother, my mother who just passed last week. Who was an educator, gave her life to education. But everything has to come to an end, and I am happy that I made the decision to end this journey. I have truly grown, learned a lot, become a better person, better father, better employee, just better in all aspects of my life. And it's because of not just all of you who are here, you all are part of it, even the ones who I didn't get along with or who we've had issues with. That was part of my journey and part of the growth to be who I am today. And, many, many folks that came before, I mean, I've been on this board. I've seen 20-plus year board members with Bill Fleming and Melinda Anderson and lots of great board members, Chip Jackson, others that I've mentioned tonight. And I've had the opportunity to learn and grow from every single one of them. None of us can know everything. It takes us all working as a team if this works the right way, and build on the strengths of each other to make this a better district. As Dr. Davis has said, I was worried or thought that I might not be board chair again, because it seems like every time I'm board chair, we tend to go into crisis. We had the Spring Valley issue, the 1,000-year floods, I think, and not crisis, but certainly big change, Dr. Davis, when you were first hired as the superintendent-elect. COVID first happened under my watch. And we've got some challenges certainly today with that I'm working through as board chair. But the blessing is truly back to me. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Public education is the biggest difference, one of the biggest differences between us and almost any other country in this world. The fact that we provide a public education, and I have demonstrated, along with many others on this board, that for me, it truly is for all students. We had a gentleman talk about his journey as being a gay male. Diversity, I mean, we've made a lot of changes, hiring our first diversity officer, students, special ed, who I taught. My mother taught special ed for many years. Public education must be for all students, and we must accept all students, and we must work to make all students successful. As uncomfortable as that may make us feel at times, we have to do that. That's a requirement, part of public education. I am all for private education, home education, all the other types of education that parents and families can choose if they are unhappy with what we do on public education, but public education has to stand strong for all children. And so I hope that the new board, whoever they are, will continue to stand behind those principles to make sure that all students are successful. And so I thank each and every one of you, whether you were somebody who voted and supported me or who worked against me, it doesn't matter. You're all part of the community. Again, I would not trade what I have gained in the opportunity to be here. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It's truly been an honor. So with that, as I said, it's not my last opportunity to speak. I'll try not to cry at the future ones. But anyways, with that, I will have a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Motion made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. All in favor, raise your right hands high, or Dr. Holmes, speak up.
Yes.
All right, motion's unanimous. We will now adjourn.